All right, well, it's 6:06. I will start yabbering, and I'll start the class in a few minutes. So how many people here are new and know who I am? An obnoxious statement. You know who I am and you're new, you know who I am. Okay, that's pretty simple. So are you new? You don't know who I am? Okay, that's fine. That's fair enough. So basically, for the new people that don't know me, so I've been doing tech education on YouTube since 2009. Basically, the concept with Silicon Dojo is I've met people all around the world, quite literally, that my content has helped change their lives. And so the idea is in 2009, the concept was nothing was online. What if there was on-demand technology education? That didn't exist then. So now it's 2025, things change after 16 years, and so now the idea is, can we take that YouTube environment into the physical world? What if there was just technology education that just existed for everybody? And so that's basically what we're trying to do here. So this is crowdfunded, so that's why you don't pay when you come in. Again, as I tell people, it's free to the end user, not actually free. If you want to throw some money in, that would be ever so lovely. But the concept is we abstract out the financial component from the education component, so I don't ask you about your financial status. You can have $1 million and pay me nothing. You can be broke and pay me $100. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to teach, and you pay whatever it is you want to pay. Let's see here. So yeah, we are going to, just so everybody knows, we are going to start doing our, we're going to start taking attendance. One of the big things with Silicon Dojo is you hear me talk about it. It's authority-less, gatekeeper-less, free to end user, hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever it is you want to do. I actually believe in that. I believe in the concept of getting rid of walls. Again, you think about a paywall, you think about a barrier, and one of the issues is a curb is too high for somebody in a wheelchair. One of the things I actually did business when I had my business back in the day in Baltimore City. One of the interesting things was how many of my employees and how many people I dealt with literally did not have bank accounts. So a lot of people say, well, Eli, if you want people to be in the class, then all you have to do is charge them $1 to be in the class, and then that's a barrier to make people to show that they're at least serious. But the issue is if somebody doesn't have a credit card, then they can't even pay that single dollar, and that's actually a real issue that we have. So basically the idea is I want to make it as open as possible, but then we run into reality where we have 41 people signed up for tonight, and we have 10 people in this room. So it is as it is. So that's why we're going to start doing attendance here. One, just so I start learning everybody's name, because I realized after doing 6 of these classes, I know nobody's name. But then 2, also to start tracking people, just so I know who's actually going to show up and who's not, to make it a little easier. Again, I don't care. If we had 1,000 seats, I wouldn't care about attendance, but we do only have 24 seats, so it doesn't matter. What is your name again?
Herman Goldstein.
Herman Goldstein. Okay. So we're just going to do this every time. That is one thing I would say for anybody using Meetup. One of the things to think about in life is why you're doing what you're doing. When they ask why people are coming to Meetup, the largest reason people are coming to this particular Meetup is for networking for whatever reason. So one thing just to keep in mind is if you're here to network and you don't put your face on your avatar and you don't put your actual name, is that actually helping you for networking? So again, there's no rules here. You can put an egg as your face and you can put whatever name you want. But if somebody's like, wow, I was talking to this really cool person in class, I want to ping them later, and then they're just looking at a bunch of eggs and a bunch of random ass names, they're not going to be able to find you. And if you're here for networking, then that kind of defeats the purpose. So something just to kind of consider. Book for you, and you are again. Oh, thank you. What was your name again?
Danielle.
Danielle. Again, see, this is why I am asking, because I don't remember anybody's name. Okay, so there's that part. When you come, just so you know, we do have things on the web. So this is silicondojo.com, so this is our hub. So I'm using Meetup just because it's easiest for RSVPs right now. But this is our main hub. So all of the events that we're going to be having are going to be here. I just got the time slots for January, so we're going to have 2 more classes signed up for January. Plus, I'm going to start trying to do full-day boot camps, hopefully in January, so that will be here, not just on Meetup. We also have fireside chats, so I do want to do more of these in the future. These are Zoom, basically conversations with all kinds of slightly impressive people in the tech world to kind of give you an idea of how they look at the tech world. Again, we have like the VP for AI models at IBM. And so don't listen to my opinion about AI, listen to his opinion about AI type of deal. That's there. And also, so you know, we have self-study classes. We're going to have more of these. So like we use Python. Python is our main programming language here for Silicon Dojo. We are going to have a boot camp on that in the future, but if you need to get up to speed, we have a full-fledged Python class here, Introduction to Programming, SQL with SQLite, and the Bottle web app framework. So these are here. You can just take them at your own leisure. Let's see here. Again, it's all free to the end user. If you come up here, there is a Support Silicon Dojo at DonorBox, and that if you click on that, that will take you to this beautiful link. And you do with this link what you want to do with this link. This link just exists. Also, one of the things I keep forgetting to tell people about, it's really weird. I built this damn thing over 16 years, and now I'm kind of such a geek, where now that I'm not working on it anymore, I forget about it. But these are all my classes. These are like 16 years of classes. And so if you go here, like for videos, we have everything from Arduino to cloud computing to Linux to networking to PHP programming, voice, VoIP systems, server, security, the whole 9 yards. So that also exists. Some of the classes are old, not up to my current snuff, but they do exist. The final thing on all this is all of this material. So the material that is in these books, I post this. So if you go to GitHub, you go to Silicon Dojo, and then if you look at in-person classes, all of the documentation is going to be here. You can download it and use it as you want. I'm not worrying about licensing because I don't want to have to figure out what licensing I want to put this under. Basically, use this as you see fit. If you want to take everything that I do here and turn it into your own class somewhere else, God bless, go for it. One of the concepts with Silicon Dojo is not simply teaching these classes, but coming up with a system that is replicatable. So just as I've had people from India thank me and Pakistan thank me and Africa thank me for my education, my hope now, my goal is what if we can create a system where they can actually do those classes? What if they can be in Mogadishu and do a class? Like, oh, I learned under the Dojo system from my teacher. That's kind of the idea here. Let's see here. So I said all of that. Okay. Yeah, the final thing for anybody new in the technology world is I thought this was kind of interesting. So this was surprising and real. So again, we are free to the end user. And again, distrust, verify, and stay suspicious. I'm still not sure this money is going to stay in my account. But apparently, I have one of my viewers out there that has done very well in the world of AI, and we are now getting paid $690 per month because they want to support what we're doing here. Why I bring this up is not to flex. The idea is to kind of show people how the real technology world works. It was interesting. I got into an argument with somebody a long time ago in Baltimore, and they were like, Eli, everything that you're saying is nice, but let's get back to reality. And I was kind of stumped, because I was like, I never stopped talking about reality. I don't know how boring your reality is, but this shit's my reality, right? And so something to be thinking about. If you want to start building a business or you want to start doing things in the technology world, one of the things to consider is this whole concept of you cannot be what you cannot see. That's a lot of horse crap, but there is some truth to that. Like when I create this whole Silicon Dojo program, it's amazing how much I get mansplained to about how this is stupid. How what I really need to do is come up with all these systems. One of the things for me is I have a buddy of mine called Louis Rossman, if anybody's on YouTube. He cares about the right to repair movement. Literally, a number of years ago, I got a call from him, and he said, Eli, I just got contacted by this billionaire who was writing me a $1 million check and basically gave me the phone number to his lawyer because it needs to go to a 501c3. What do you think I should do with this? And I was like, wow. So I got to sit there and I got to talk to Louis about him getting $1 million out of nowhere. And so basically he really cares about right to repair. And this billionaire literally is a multi-billionaire, does not know what to do with all the fucking money he has. It's many funny stories I cannot relate. Anyways, so this guy had gone home and his neighbor, a female neighbor, had been watching Louis's videos. And the female neighbor talked to this guy and was like, hey, you should give him $1 million. So literally, I just called my buddy and said, hey, you're getting $1 million as long as I get to do it tax deductible. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Or he was like, okay. So he called me, and we were talking about it. He really wanted to do politics. He didn't really care about education. Like this, he does not give two shits about what I'm trying to do here, does not like it at all. But he cares about politics. He goes and he doesn't protest, but he goes in front of different senates and all that kind of thing in order to try to push laws. And so one of the things I warned him, I was like, well, look, a 501c3, it's for education, this type of thing. It's not for politics. You know, you can't use all the money for politics. Do you really want to take it if it's going to be golden handcuffs? And he found out you could only spend about 10% of it on politics. So I was like, what is he going to do? And so what he did is the next week, he started a GoFundMe campaign. And he said, I got all this money that allows me to do education, but I don't really want to do education. I want to do politics. And so he talked to all of his viewers, and God bless him, he got $900,000 in 30 days in order to do GoFundMe. Motherfucker got $1.9 million in 45 days just for people being generous. And so one of the things where I talk with that story is this is a person that I actually know and have had conversations with. And so an important thing to understand in the technology world a lot of times is the ideas that sound absolutely stupid to other people. If you're actually talking with people and you have heard from people's lived experiences, you realize it's not nearly as stupid as it may sound. Again, I talk about a guy called Jordan Peterson. Do not care anybody's opinion about Jordan Peterson. Basically, the guy apparently tells young men to make their beds or whatever. Fine. He was getting $90,000 a month in crowdfunding at one point. And so anyways, that's one of the reasons I bring this kind of thing up, is if you're going to go out there and do a business, talk with other people and see what their actual experiences are to figure out if what you're doing is nearly as crazy as you think it is. The other thing to know, to realize with whatever you're going to be doing, again, whether it's Silicon Dojo, whether it's YouTube, is you don't know if something will work until you try. So I make money right now screaming about very stupid shit on YouTube. It is a very weird job. It is very bizarre. And if you go back 16 years ago, even when I started doing videos, that was not a path to success and making money. And again, one of the things to be thinking about with the technology businesses is sometimes your path to success, where you will make money, you can't even explain it once you're doing it. Like, it's an interesting thing. Just one of those things to consider. And the other thing to be thinking about if you want to go out there and try to do a startup company, everybody likes to talk nowadays. You want to talk about what they're doing. The important thing to understand is people pay for what you're doing. They may not care about what you're specifically doing at this point in time, but they go, wow, I'm impressed with what this person is doing. I want to see what else they will do. And so they will provide you money and resources for doing that. Whereas I see a lot of people, they just simply talk, and then they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. It's like, because you're not actually doing something. Build something. Build a website. Go teach. Go do the basic concepts. So anyways, I thought that was an interesting thing. Again, I have no idea. All this money may be ripped out of my account tomorrow as far as I'm concerned, but it's just a curious thing. Let's see here. Here we go. And that is that. So anybody have any questions before we get into the class? Quiet people. Yep. Yeah, there's a camera right there. Yep. Yeah, so the recording of this class generally should be up tomorrow. So I'll go home tonight, or I'll go into a hotel tonight. I'll have insomnia. I will edit this thing, and it'll probably be up in the morning. Yep.
Do you already have topics for January classes?
Yeah, well, one of the topics for January is going to be AI at the edge with Raspberry Pis. So basically showing how to use essentially potatoes at the edge with AI. And then I'm trying to figure out what the other classes will be right now. The next class we're going to be having here on December 17th is going to be on Moondream. It's a pretty cool AI vision framework that allows you to do a lot of interesting things. Okay, so let's get into the actual class today. So yeah, you've got the paperwork in front of you, so it's easier. Basically, I'm just going to go through this little book you have in front of you, and feel free to do notes or whatever else on it, especially when we get to code. It makes it a lot easier. More people. See, it's Durham. Oh, wow, look at that. 3 people come in after I finish my spiel. It's Durham. No worries. Okay, you are.
Archie.
All right.
Bill.
What's that?
Archie. Was it Rebel?
Wouldn't
that be my name?
What's your name on there? Hey, man. You're here to learn about REST APIs.
Yeah. I don't see my name.
Did you sign up?
Yeah, signed up.
Oh, did you just sign up? Somebody just signed up.
This is on the list.
That's the list.
Maybe they didn't take it. I don't know.
It's not there.
You signed it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out later. Archie. I'll just tell you. Yeah. Archie. What was your name again? Steven. Steven Joseph, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's you. Okay. And then who was the other person that just came in? You. Massinos. Matthew North. There. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Yeah, I was just telling everybody. So we are doing attendance nowadays. 1, to know everybody's name because there's a lot of people in here, and 2, because we have 41 people who signed up, and this many people actually showed up. So I need to start figuring out how many people are coming to these classes. So there you go. Okay, you've got the book, everything. Okay, so yeah, we're going to use the book. We're going to go through. So it's going to be important, especially as we start getting to the longer code snippets. That way you can just sit there and look at the book as I flip through the screen back and forth. Because I've been where you are, and having some geek flip back and forth on a screen without having material in front of you is less than amusing. So we're trying to make this a little bit better for education. One of the things for the new people, if you actually understand Python, if you know things like try except statements, if you look at my code and you say, there should really be a lot of try except statements here, I will let you know, yes. My teaching style is we try to teach very specifically what I'm teaching tonight and not the perfect way of doing things. None of this code should go into production. I'm teaching you a concept. If you understand how to make this concept safe, God bless. If you don't, hey, you're a vibe coder, yay. So anyways, okay, so let's look at page number 2 out of 16. So basically for this class, if you have a computer and you want to use a computer, with this, basically REST APIs, what we're going to be using today, what are called REST APIs, these can be run on essentially a potato. So when I'm talking about a potato, I'm talking about a 2010 computer with 2 or 3 gigs of RAM and Python installed. REST APIs should work perfectly. So the lab computers I have for Silicon Dojo back in Asheville, we literally use 2012 MacBook Pros with 4 gigs of RAM and a solid state drive in there, and Python works perfectly on those machines. So REST APIs are going to be fine. Where you run into quote-unquote trouble is, so the AI framework that we're going to be using today is this framework called Ollama, which is great. If you've not played with it, definitely play with it. So this allows you to run AI models locally on your computer and be able to connect to them with Python. So when you download models, they have thousands of different models here to pick from. The smaller the model, the less resources your system needs, right? So generally, if you need a small model, there's something called the Pi3 model, a PHI3 model from Microsoft that we've been using. Basically, that should run on a Raspberry Pi. That should run on a potato. Is that you? Something's banging. Is that it? So it should be able to run onto a potato. The one thing that I will warn you, though, is Pi theory is quirky. You will write all of your code, and you will get some weird garbage back from Pi3. So just realize, like, if all of your code is running, but then the response you get doesn't make a damn bit of sense, that's probably Pi3 and not your code. So that's just something to keep in mind. GPT OSS, that's OpenAI's open source model. That works pretty well for the class today, so that's basically what we're going to be using in the class today. But for that, you do need a decent computer. So I've got a M2 MacBook Pro from a couple of years ago with 16 gigs of RAM. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to play around and figure out what models work well for you. If you just have a potato that will not even run Ollama, we had a class previously on using OpenAI's API. The thing is, when you use somebody else's API, all the resources are being run on their systems. So you can have a potato and have all the power of OpenAI because it's running on their servers. But then that's where we talk about architecture systems. And so that's where you have to figure out basically how you're going to be building things out. So things to think about with the systems today. The only module that we use today is something called the request module that you do have to install. Request is a completely normal module. Everybody uses it, but for some reason it's not part of core. So anyways, do the pip install to install the request module. For Ollama, you go to ollama.com to install it. And then the command is Ollama poll for whatever model you want, either Pi3 or GPT OSS. And for Ollama, the module on Python, you just install the Ollama module to make that work. That's a lot of just basic Python stuff there. Any questions on potatoes? Nope, everybody awake. Okay, so let's talk about REST APIs. So REST APIs, when we're talking about APIs, these are application programming interfaces. This is the way that your software will communicate with somebody else's systems. So when we talk about an API, this might be an API for Twilio. So Twilio allows you to send SMS messages from your Python code, or SendGrid allows you to send emails from your code. What we're going to be working around today is we're going to deal with a weather API, a location API, a news API, and a countries API. So basically, these are services being run on somebody else's system. Our code is going to go from our computer up to their servers, make the request, grab the information, and pull it back. So we're talking about APIs. This is just simply a way that your software is able to communicate with their services. We talk about a REST API. A REST API is simply a specific way of being able to communicate with people's servers. Dun, dun, dun. And pass that book back. Attendance is annoying. Name? Z-A-I-N? Is there another name that you might be under a meetup? No. We don't have that. Z-A-I-N. We'll deal with that later. Cool. Okay. So REST APIs is basically a standard way of doing an API. So when you're going to connect to somebody else's service and you're like, Eli, do I use REST? Or what API do I use? You go to their website, you look at their documentation, and then you use whatever API they give you. That's basically how all this stuff works. So REST is one that a lot of different people use. It's called a representational state transfer API, which doesn't matter. If you're not going to computer science class, forget I ever said that. It's just called a REST API. Now, there used to be something called SOAP APIs. Now that we're just using REST API. Basically, with a REST API, what you do is you send something that looks like a GET request. So if you know anything about web development, this will look very normal. And if you don't know anything about web development, this is what we call a GET request. And so basically what a GET request is, so this is all in one line. Let me just expand this so it's a little easier for you to see. What a GET request is basically you're going to a web page. So this is newsapi.org. And then you're putting in a URL. And then what you can do is then you can add variables to the URL. So this up to here is just a URL, think of it like a web page. Then you use the question mark, and then you start adding variables. So here we say country equals US. So the country is the key, US is the value. You do and for another key, API key is the key, and the value is this API key right here. So basically, when your application goes to this URL with these variables embedded into it, it will then get a JSON response back, which, God help us all, looks like this, right? Right? It's easy. Don't worry, it is pretty simple. So basically, when you get back this JSON response, this is a pre-formatted response with what are called key value pairs. So the key is status, the value is OK. The key is total records, total results, the value is 35. And then within this, the key is articles. And then within the articles, we can see from CNBC, from author Sean Collin. The title is Stocks Rebound as Bitcoin Bounces, Tech Shares Gain, Live Updates. The description is the slump in cryptocurrency dragged on during the previous session. Blase, blase, blase. So when we think about REST APIs, basically the way to think about it is, what if we created an internet for only computers to communicate with each other? Right? Computers do not care about fonts, they do not care about colors, they do not care about formatting, they don't want to see pictures. What they really like to see is things like key value pairs, right? And so the idea here is we make that request, we bring this in, and since we have this pre-formatted result, we know what these key value pairs should look like, so we can very easily pull out the information that we care about. The big thing when you're programming is this concept called parsing. And what parsing is basically when your program reads information coming into it, and then you have to write code for what happens when certain information comes in. The problem is, especially when you're dealing with AI, when you're dealing with LLMs, they will give you the weirdest fucking responses in the world, and then you have to figure out how to do if-else statements based off of really random-ass responses, which is a pain. The nice part about a JSON response is this isn't random, right? We have key-value pairs. We know exactly what to do here. So anyways, this is basically what we're talking about with REST APIs. So you're using a URL that has variable values embedded into it to communicate with a web page that returns a result in JSON, which is its pre-formatted values. When you think about REST API requirements, these are just interesting things to be thinking about whenever you're dealing with the technology world. The idea is that there should be a uniform interface. And so the uniform interface is basically this, right? So whatever programming language I'm using, whatever device that I'm using, whatever operating system that I'm using, this is the way to connect with the REST API. Whether I'm using Linux or Mac or Windows, whether I'm using iOS or whatever else, this is how I connect to the API to be able to communicate with it. The other thing is when you get the response back, whatever the device is, you're getting the exact same response back. So there are different APIs where that can be different. That's not with REST APIs. Client-server decoupling. So this is a big thing over the past 15 years. There used to be something, or there still is something, called client-server architecture, where the client computer and the server computer are tightly integrated, right? One of the things with this architecture style is that neither of the devices have to understand each other, right? The client doesn't have to understand the server doesn't have to understand the client. All that has to be understood is here is the request, here is the result, we move on. Statelessness. This is a weird thing in the computer world. Basically, many times there is a test for the state of either the client computer or the server computer to fully understand whether the communication should progress. One of the things with REST APIs is it's not stateless. It's stateless. Basically, here's a request, here's a response, that's it. And it should be cacheable. You do have to be careful about this. So the idea with cacheability is when you get back this text, that you should be able to save this. So we had a class before on using SQL with AI, and we cached responses. Basically, we saved responses into our database. So based off of the REST API, you should be able to technically save the responses. One of the reasons that you do that is, remember, every time you communicate with a server, that's resources being used. So if you can cache the response locally, you're simply interacting with your local computer. You don't have to communicate over the internet and basically burn resources and that type of thing, especially if you're paying per so many thousand requests that you make. Basically, if you can cache the response, you don't have to pay when you hit your own database server. So it should be cacheable. You do have to be careful with the cacheability thing, because one of the things in the technology world is something can be technologically true and legally illegal. When you look at the terms of service for some of these APIs, what you'll see is per the standard for REST APIs, everything they do is cacheable. Like, you can cache it. If you look at the terms of service, they will specifically tell you it's illegal to cache it. So that's just kind of one of those things where, as a technology professional, it's as important that you read the legal agreements you're getting into as being able to understand the code. Let's see here. And then layered system architecture. This is an interesting thing, especially with the modern world. The idea here is neither the client nor the server needs to understand the architecture on the other side. So when the client makes a call to the server may communicate with any number of databases. It may make its own API calls. It may go to a data store. It may do a lot of different things. The client does not need to know about any of that. All the client gets is this. It doesn't have to know how many database servers the server is connecting to or anything like that. Just one of those things. When you're thinking about considerations with REST APIs, one of the big things when you're looking at the REST APIs is look at what the rate limits are. So what the rate limits for these APIs is they're going to tell you, you can make so many requests, let's say per month, per hour, per day, per second. One of the things here for the class. Come on in. Da, da, da. Don't worry, you can't fail. We don't have grades. Your name is? Veronica. Anyway. Veronica. Okay. So one of the things that will get you in trouble, especially if you're like in the real technology world, you're going to be going to a client, is you can have technology that works perfectly in the lab, seamless in the lab. You put it into production and everything goes to hell. Everything just gets destroyed. And the reason is, especially like with things like rate limits, like you may see you have a rate limit of 60 requests per minute, and you're like, oh, that's more than enough. Well, the thing is, if you have multiple users connecting to the server, and then let's imagine when they connect to the server doesn't work quite properly. So they make a request, but the web page doesn't render quite properly. So they hit refresh, and they hit refresh, and then they hit refresh. That means that user just used 4 requests. That means if you have 15 users all trying to go to the web page at the exact same time, you now have gone over the rate limit for that particular API, and now everything is going to crash on you. So one of the things to look at is what the rate limits are, and that's one of the things to be thinking about with architecture is like, do you cache responses from these REST APIs, or do you actually go out to them? Something to kind of consider there. This is especially going to be true with a lot of the free services. Back when I was doing these classes originally in Asheville, I did this whole class for OpenAI's API, like under the free model or a cheap model. And anyways, it worked perfectly in the lab. I took it into the class, we started running it, everything went to hell. And the reason is because I had 10 people all making a couple of requests per minute. And I hadn't properly looked at the rate limit beforehand. And basically we were just maxing out the rate limit in about half a second. So rate limits can be a big problem. Costs for these APIs. Billing is generally X amount of money per 1,000 requests. Many times, especially with requests like this, it may be tens of thousands of requests. This is one of those things you just have to understand what your use case is going to be. If you get 100,000 requests in a month, many times that is going to be good enough. Any questions? Yeah, paper, yes. Yeah. Scribble on the paper. You get to keep the paper. Please don't take the 3-ring binder itself. That's it. Yeah. Give you the paper. That's for you. So cost. So it's generally per 1,000 or tens of thousands. You just got to look at that. Then the final thing is terms of service. This is one of the things a lot of 18-year-olds don't like to look at, is they all want to get in the coding. They want to do AI. They don't want to read legalese. Remember, when you're using these services, make sure you look at the legalese and make sure you're allowed to do what you want to do. What you technically can do and what you're legally allowed to do can be 2 entirely different things. So do be careful with that. There are well, I don't know if there's a standard. If we go here like to this, you click on documentation, and then there should be, where is their TOS? Give me a TOS. Documentation, news, pricing. Oh, terms of service. There we go. Yeah, so use license. You can't decompile or reverse engineer, remove any copyright. Yeah, see, that's an interesting thing. So like this is a news API, so remove any copyright or other proprietary notations from the material. So if you want to try to use it, again, imagine if you were feeding this into your AI model to do something, you want to make sure stuff doesn't get stripped out. Let's see, restrictions on API key that use a service to reproduce or republish copyrighted materials. I'm not really sure, use service in a manner that violates the law, attempt to build, and this is one of the big things too. Like you're not allowed to attempt to build a competing news database. So that's one of these things, and that's where you have to be careful about, again, with that cacheability. Many times they'll say you're not allowed to save any of the information that you get from us, and that's basically what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop you using a $10 a month service to build a competitor and then try to sell that for thousands of dollars a month. So you just come in here and you look at the TOS, and basically make sure you know what's going on. Any other questions there?
Is that always, it feels like the ideal is it has all of these, but is it sometimes barren of information?
Oh, with TO, well, yeah, so it depends. So if you go, so where are we at here? So if we go to, so this web page here, Control C. This is a GitHub page of basically a whole bunch of free REST APIs. And so this is good to play with. If you just want stuff to play with, be able to parse and test against and that type of thing. And if you come here, you'll see you have like animal APIs like cat facts. So you can click on the cat fact API. And the important thing with this is just like a web page. Just like a 9-year-old can build a web page, a 9-year-old can build a frickin' API, like in all seriousness. And so you're just going to be dealing with, whether or not they give you proper terms of service. Yeah. Cat facts is kind of fun. The other thing too is to be careful about with some of these, especially the free REST APIs, is I was actually using this cat facts API in one of my classes, and their server decided to crap out exactly when I was doing the class. So one thing to think about when you're building systems is to consider what infrastructure the API is running off of, because I guarantee you this is probably running off of a 9-year-old's computer sitting in their bedroom. And so do you want your systems to depend on that? Yeah. The GitHub again. Yeah, the link is at the bottom of page 3. Yeah. So yeah, that'll bring you here, and there are so many. That's what's kind of cool with this. There are so many APIs. There's anime. There's animals. There's anime. If you want cat, I don't even know what the hell a Catboy is, but if you want Catboy API calls, you got that. Anti-malware, art and design, authentication. All kinds of stuff are here. So there's a ton of APIs out there. Okay, so yeah, let's go over to page number 4 and start talking about JSON. So JSON is going to be the response that comes back. So when we take a look at this, again, this is what we talk about with a JSON response. And we talk about a JSON response, we're talking about key value pairs. You have any questions about the class? Or? Wi-Fi is AU main, second floor, and then American Underground, uppercase A, uppercase U. Okay, so let's look at a simple JavaScript thing, API JSON. Endpoint. Okay, so this is a much simpler JSON, just so you kind of get the idea of what's going on here. So basically with this, there is a API that gets your external IP address. And then what's really interesting is your external IP address, that information for that IP address is actually sitting in a database that has a whole bunch of information about you. So you can go just simply using your web browser to ip-ip.com/JSON, JSON, and you will get this response. And so this is going to be what a JSON response looks like in a web browser. So status equals success, the country is the United States, country code is US, region North Carolina, city, it thinks we're in Raleigh, this is the approximate zip code, approximate latitude, approximate longitude, we're on Google Fiber, a whole bunch of information here. This is also one thing too, when people talk about they want an enemy or to be anonymous on the internet, right? They're fighting to be anonymous on the internet. They lost that fucking war like 25 years ago. Like that's just not how the internet works. So like when you look at this, you have to understand this is not a cookie. So when you go to a website and it asks for all these permissions, this is just a basic functioning of networking. So I don't need to ask you to get this information. You're literally providing me everything that I need here. So anyways, but this is what a JSON response looks like. If we go and we take a look at some Python code, I can kind of show you how Python deals with this. REST JSON. Okay. Can everybody see this? Well enough? Cool. Okay, so this is how we use Python in order to deal with JSON. So again, for anybody that is new here, the important thing with Silicon Dojo is that you get on the mat, you learn how to get punched. Basically, the idea is you come here, you learn 2 things. All you have to do tonight is learn 2 things. You keep coming for multiple classes, you learn a lot of stuff, and then you become a professional. So if you don't know Python, that's cool. Just start to follow along, and as you keep coming to classes, it'll get easier. So basically, this is Python. So Python is our main language for Silicon Dojo, just because it's like the duct tape for everything in the modern world. So the main thing that we're going to need here is to import what's called the request module. So we import the request module. That does have to be installed. Then we're going to create a URL. So for this JSON response, this is all we need for the URL. So http://ip.com/JSON, that's all we're going to do. Then what we're going to do is response equals, so this is the variable name response. We're going to use request module. We're going to use the get function, and then we're going to feed it this URL. Now that's going to come back as an object. So if you don't put this final, what's called a method at the end of it, it's going to come back as an object and everything is going to get ugly. What this method here does is it formats this response back as a JSON value so that you can actually access data from it. So basically, if for some reason you don't put that .json on the end and then you try to interact with the response and you get some kind of errors, you'll know, oh, I forgot to put JSON at the end, so it's not currently a JSON, what's called a JSON data type. So if I simply print this out right now, we print the response, this is what it's going to look like. So this basically is what I just showed you on the web page. So it brought all of these values in. So now this is sitting within my Python code as a variable value. But this, on its own, really isn't that useful, right? So what we want to do is we want to be able to get out values. And so that's where we talk about key value pairs. So country, United States, region, North Carolina, city, Raleigh. So like when we're doing weather in a little bit, we're going to need the latitude and we're going to need the longitude. So we're going to pull that individual thing out. I think for the code today, basically what we want to do is, let's say I just simply want this city. So for whatever reason, I want the city that the people are coming from. So when I do this, so response, so the response that's coming in, I want the value at the city key, right? So when I do that, it is going to say simply that I'm in Raleigh. And so that's how we can test against or do something with, right? Does everybody kind of understand what's going on there? Yeah, it's pretty simple. Now, one of the issues you run into, though, is when you start dealing with JSON, JSON can get pretty ugly. Because, again, especially when you're new, you're looking at this, right? One of the big problems we get to, and a lot of people are getting into the technology world, is they think you have to be smart. They're like, Eli, I'm not smart enough to be a technology professional. You don't actually have to be that smart to be a technology professional. You just have to be precise, right? This isn't about intelligence. This is just simply about reading through this to figure out exactly what you're trying to get. So one of the problems you get to is you get this mess, especially when you get much, much bigger JSON responses. And it can be very difficult simply to figure out what you're trying to pull out of here. That's one of the reasons why it's important with the standardization that every time you get a response back from a REST API, it always looks the same. So that once you figure out what the hell you're trying to get, you can just plug that into your code and you never have to touch it again. But one of the things you can have is there is a function. So you can use this module called JSON. So JSON is a core module to Python. You don't have to install it. And basically, if we come down here, we can use this JSON.dumps function. So we're going to print JSON, the JSON module, dumps. We're going to feed it the variable, so that JSON variable that's coming in, and we're going to say for basically each layer in the JSON, indent by 2. So what this is going to do for us is this is going to format the JSON response in such a way that hopefully it's a little bit easier to actually figure out what the hell's going on. So when I do this, now we see this is a lot easier to read, right? So we open the JSON response here, status, success, country, United States, code, region, so on and so forth. So if I'm trying to figure out what value, what key I'm trying to pull out, it's a lot easier to run this, figure out what that JSON response looks like, and then go, oh, okay, I need this. So the key for zip code is zip. So I'm going to put in zip in order to pull that value out. Now, the important thing to understand with this is that when you do this, this becomes a string data type. So if you do something like, if you do something like response equals, basically, as soon as you do this and then you print response, you'll get what we got before, all nice and pretty. But then when you go to the actual key to pull out a value, there won't be a key there because it's no longer a JSON data type. So that's the only thing to be careful about when you do this, is this turns the response into a string, so it's easier to read, but it's no longer JSON. Does that all sort of make sense? Cool. Okay, let's go over to page 5 then. No, this API you don't need any key for. No, completely free. So then we get to nested JSON, which, this is just a damn disaster. This is where you just do not like your life as a technology professional. Okay, so we take a look at this. All right, so this is... So this API here, restcountries.com, this basically gives you information about specific countries. So if you want the currency, if you want alternate spellings, if you want their capital, if you want that kind of stuff, you can go to restcountries.com, and basically you put in a URL like this, and then you put the name of the country you're going for here. When you get the response back, though, this is going to start to get a hell of a lot more ugly, right? And this is what we call a nested response. So basically in Python, whenever you see squiggly brackets, these are for like dictionaries. So basically the key is going to be a word. So common, Spain, official, Kingdom of Spain, native name, right? So the key value there is always going to be a word. If you see the square brackets, then the key value is going to be a number. So the index starts at 0 and then goes up from there. So basically, once you start getting this nested, what's happening here is you basically have these sets of data within sets of data, and then you've got to figure out how the hell to get to where you want, right? So if you want the official name of Spain, you would do response at square bracket 0, because this opens a square bracket. So at index 1 is actually index 0, because it starts at 0. So you do response 0, name, official, and then that will get you Kingdom of Spain. And again, this is actually where AI is very valuable. This is where ChatGPT is your friend. You copy this into ChatGPT and you say, how do I get this particular, and then it'll spit something out for you. But yeah, so basically that's where you're trying to go through this mess and figure out, oh lordy, how does this work? Because like here, like so native name, spa, official, right? So it could be like 0, name, native name, official is Reno des España, right?
JSON dumps work with that too?
Yeah, so it will. And that's where, like with this, right? So if we do the same thing we did before, if I try to print this out, basically I'm just going to get a text. Come here. I'm going to get a text value of that mess, right? So I get all of this mess, right? That's not useful. So what I can do is I can then do the JSON dumps, right? So it'll then indent. And this is pretty big. So basically, this is now what we're going to get out. Okay. So this is where you start to get a better idea. It's like, okay, so we have a square bracket. So in the square bracket, the first index is 0 here. And so that's like, okay, that's name. So if I want the common name, I would go to response 0, name, common is Spain, right? Or if I'm trying to get all the way down here, it'd be like 0, name, I think, or no, spa, official, Reno, España, right? And this is where, again, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be fucking Einstein to figure this shit out. You just got to be very tediously precise, right? So I'm trying to figure out the alternate spellings, and this is, see where we have square brackets here? So these are indexes of 0, 1, and 2. So I'm going to kind of show you how to pull those out in a second. So that's where if we're taking a look at this then, right? So let me do these. Right? So if I want the common name, if I want the capital, and I want the list of alternate spellings, right? So print response at index 0, at name, at common will give me common name. Index 0 capital will give me the capital. Index 0 alternate spellings will give me a list of the alternate spellings. So then, when I hit this, right, so we get Spain. You'll notice Madrid. Madrid is actually within a list because for some reason in a country there might be multiple capitals. And then here are the alternate spellings, ES, Kingdom of Spain, and Reino Español, right? Now, if I'm trying to pull out, let's say I'm trying to pull out these individual values here for whatever reason, that's where we can do a for loop. And so that's where we say a for x in response, 0 alt spellings. So alt spellings, there's a list here of all those different spellings. So for each value in the list, we're going to do a for loop, and we're going to print out that value. And so that's where we go through here, and we can see now we're just simply printing out those particular values. And this is the very tedious way you go through nested JSON. Does everybody basically understand what's going on here? Yes, no, yay! All right. I've got like 20 of you in here, so it's like, are you asleep? Are you awake? Who knows?
We're awake.
You're awake. Okay. So now let's get into location with Ollama. So this is where we actually start getting into AI stuff. So go to page number 6. AI, rest location AI. Okay. So again, one of the big things we have to be thinking about whenever we deal with artificial intelligence is that it simply is not. I know, like I keep saying AI isn't and all these kind of things, and it sounds really pedantic. Like there's the AI is cool people and the AI is horrible people, and I'm on one side or the other. The main point that I just want you to understand is that AI just simply isn't. This is not intelligence. All of this becomes so much easier when you realize it's not intelligence, right? Because people, as soon as you put a word to something, people have a lot of bias. They put a lot of story onto that, right? So if I say LLM to most of you have no story with LLM. You may like or hate Pi 3 and like GPT-OSS. You might like DeepSeek, but you probably don't have a lot of story to it, right? When you say AI, right, you've been watching movies like Lawnmower Man and Stephen King stuff, and you've watched The Jetsons, right? So when you say artificial intelligence, think about how much story you lump on this word. And this word has done nothing to deserve that particular story. And so one of the important things to understand is when you start dealing with AI, it's important to start considering this stuff as just LLM or models or neural networking or whatever technology you're dealing with, because then you start focusing on what you're actually dealing with and not dealing with the bias and story that you're bringing to this technology. So that's a big thing here. One of the big questions is basically how can we get this AI to start giving personal responses to users that are appropriate to them, right? So when I say things like, who is my president? How is the AI supposed to know, right? Well, the AI knows, yeah, but the LLM doesn't, right? Because it doesn't know if you're in Brazil, it doesn't know if you're in Argentina, it doesn't know if you're in the United States, it doesn't know anything. So one of the cool things with REST APIs, and basically what we're kind of showing you tonight, is how to be able to bring dynamic information into the system so that the LLM can then use that information for giving you a response. So what we're going to be doing is basically that API I showed you a little bit ago, ip-ip.com, right? That gives you your location. So what we're going to do is when we run this script, it's going to automatically grab our location, and then it's going to add our location to the prompt when we make our query. So it'll basically say, I am in the United States, answer this query. So I say, who is my president? And then hopefully it should say whoever my president is. What is my capital? It'll answer what my capital is, right? It's dynamically answering based off of who I am. So we take a look at this. I try to do everything in functions now because I'm trying to be a better programmer. Basically, we're going to come down here. So we're going to import. So we're using Ollama. So the Ollama is that framework. Ollama, import chat response, import chat, and import requests. These are my two functions here for this particular script. We have a location function, and then we have the actual AI function. The first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to say location equals whatever the response from the location function is. Again, this is one of those things you need to be thinking about is where are you making your API calls. So this is something called a while true loop. This is a loop that is going to continuously run until we stop it. If we put this location variable in this while true loop, Every time we hit enter, it's going to hit that API again. And there may be any number of problems. You might hit rate limits. It might be down for a second or whatever else. So by calling this information before we get to the while true loop, regardless, we could have this while true loop open for a year, and it will still only get that response once, right? So anyways, we go up to this location function, and what is going to happen here is we have the URL going to the URLs I showed you before. Response equals request.get URL JSON method. And then we're going to do location here, and this is called an F string. So we're going to concatenate what's called concatenate normal text with variable values just to create what's called a string. So we're going to say F, so city, we're going to say city colon, and the response city. So whatever the city I'm currently in, I'll say this is the city, and then I just do hyphen hyphen, and then country colon, and then whatever the value for the country is. So what this is going to do is when it goes to the AI, it's going to say this is my city and this is my country, answer based off this information. And then we are going to return that location value. And so that is going to be the value for location here. We do the while true loop. So then the query is going to be basically the question that we're going to ask. What are we going to ask AI? And that value is going to go to query. So the new response is going to be response equals, we go to the AI function, we feed it the query, and we feed it the location. So we go to this AI function here. Make this a little bigger for you folks. All right, we go to this AI function here. Most of this is just boilerplate, just copy and paste. So AI, we feed it the query, we feed it the location, response colon. So basically what this is response equals whatever comes back from this, right? We're going to say content, so F string here. Answer as short as possible. Do you remember with these LLMs, holy crap, they go on like an old person that hasn't seen somebody in like a month. They will just give you a book if you don't try to shut them down. So anyway, so one of the things is answer as short as possible, answer in 20 words, whatever. And dance. Okay, let's see here. Do not add additional information beyond the answer. Again, especially if you use Pi, yeah, we're using Pi 3 here. We'll see how this works. Pi 3, Pi 3. It's a special little LLM. Sometimes it'll go on some weird-ass tangents. So anyways, you try to not get it to go on to tangents. We'll see what happens with this. And then we say, answer this query and what the question is based on this location. So what the location is, right? So basically then we're going to print out whatever the response is. So I'm going to run this, and I'll say, when was my country founded? Well, Raleigh, USA, founded in 1784. Yeah, see, it's Pi 3. So, it's kind of sort of, and its founding is not directly related to the entire U.S. Let's see here. What is my national bird? Carolina wren. Okay, see, this is the kind of answer that Pi 3 will give you. Again, I will tell you GPT OSS is a lot better, so let me change to that. Anyway.
I guess North Carolina came into being during the Articles of Confederation. Maybe?
Who knows? Yeah, maybe. When was my tree founded? Yeah. Pi 3 is good for learning how to code in Python. Like, don't put it into production. So this gives you an example. So GPT OSS gives you July 4th, 1776. That's it. Let's see. Who was my first president? George Washington. Right, so again, I will tell you GPT OSS works pretty good as long as you have a computer that'll actually run it. So now let's do something interesting. Let me turn on Tunnel Bear here, and let's go to Argentina. Dun, 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 dun. Come on, Tunnel Bear, you can do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's in Argentina. Okay. How many people have been awake? If I ask a question here, What will the answer be for?
Argentina. Wait.
No, it's the
You
same
talking
case,
about-
you didn't restart the problem.
There we go. He knows how to code. It'll be for the US because, and this is important when you guys are troubleshooting your code, remember, we pull the location value before the while true loop. So if I modify my VPN connection while the code is running, that does not get updated.
That's any VPNs like that? For the,
Well, no, it's how this code works because this location is being pulled, right, before we start the loop. So this value will be static within the loop. It never changes down here. You have to restart the code for it to pick up the new location.
so someone trying to find out who you are can find out by looking at your location.
Well, that gets into something else. This is for when you are running your own code. So if I run this now, and I say, who was my first president? I'll let somebody else say who the hell Argentina's first president was. Bernardino him. There we go. And so again, this is the kind of thing to be thinking about when you're creating your AI system is how you can dynamically pull in information about the user who's actually using it, right? So here, I'm using a REST API to be able to pull their location, to be able to try to give them some better information. But one of the things to be thinking about, if you're dealing with larger systems, especially let's say you're in the Microsoft Active Directory world, Active Directory is a database. It's like for security services within the Microsoft world. It contains a lot of information about you. So it can contain the information of what city you're located in. It can contain the information of who your boss is. So literally, if I had an LLM and I said, I have an HR problem, who do I talk to about this specific issue? You could have a system set up where it will find out what office you're in, it'll figure out who your boss is, it'll figure out who your department is, and it'll figure out who the contact information is. So when you do a complaint, it will send you to the right person, and when somebody else does a complaint, it will send them to the right person. And so this is the idea of being able to pull in that information dynamically to be able to support your users. But this is one thing you can do. That's about that. Any questions there? All right. So let's go and take a look at weather. Let's see here, weather. So this is where you start adding things together. And that's one of the things too. Again, we start talking about like building things with technology. As I always try to say, everything in technology is pretty simple. Like TCP/IP addressing is simple, DNS is simple. A lot of these things are simple. You're just simply building a lot of simple components on top of each other to build these more complex systems. And so with this, what we're going to be doing is for the weather, the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out what our location is. Then once we have our location, we feed that information into a weather API to find out what the forecast is for our area. And then we feed that to our LLM to be able to ask it questions. Do I need a coat or whatever else? Since it's cold outside, let me kill my VPN. So we are on page 7 for this one. Okay, same modules up here. We got OLAMA, chat response, and chat. We got import requests, and now we're going to have 3 functions here, right? So first function is going to be for location. Second function is going to be for weather. Third function is going to be that AI function. We're going to come down here. Again, do realize these are outside of the while true loop. So these values are going to set when the script initially runs, and then they will not be updated until you rerun the script again. Right? So basically location on line 32, that's the same thing as we did before. The difference here is we are going to create, this is what's called a dictionary. So a dictionary has these named keys. So we're going to say location equals, it's going to have a latitude key, and it's going to have a longitude key. So with this weather API, you need latitude and longitude for whatever reason, right? So we're going to say location lat is going to equal response lat. That's going to come back. And location lon is going to equal response lon. So this is going to get our latitude and longitude instead of our country or city or whatever else. And then we're going to return location. So location is going to come back as a dictionary. We're then going to go here. Basically for weather, we're going to go to the weather function. Location, the value at lat, and location, the value at lon. So we're going to send the latitude and we're going to send longitude to the weather API. And when we look at this, this is where these URLs start to get a little bit stupid. All right, so the first thing is with this Open Weather Map API, I'll show you the website in a second, you do have to have a key to use this. So this is called an API key. This is a secret. You should definitely not publish it to YouTube, but I'm an instructor. So again, as I will say many times, do not do what I do. Anyways, so this is the API key. You need to feed it into this URL for this thing to work. We're going to have a URL here. This is an F string, so we're concatenating again, but now we're going to concatenate to create this long-ass URL. So we go to api.weathermap.org, data 2.5 weather, so that's the start of the URL, and then we have the question mark, so everything past that is going to be variable values. Right, so lat equals whatever the value for lat is. So the first value that we're sending up goes here, and that value is going to go here. And lon equals, the value for longitude is going to go here. And app ID equals key. So this is going to be a key value that comes in. Now, one of the interesting things is, again, you're going to have to do a little research on your API. If you don't put this final thing in for units, it's going to give you a technically correct answer. Is it going to be Celsius? Fahrenheit? No, it's going to be Kelvin. Does anybody here have any idea what the hell Kelvin even is?
Freezing.
What's that?
Cold.
Well, it's cold. No, but it's a unit of measurement. So it's like if you tell me Celsius, I'm like, okay, I can vaguely figure that out in Fahrenheit. I literally have no idea what the Kelvin numbers even mean. So basically, the number you're going to get back is going to be in Kelvin. So while you do this, and units equals imperial, this is going to give you back Fahrenheit. So again, one of those weird things to be thinking about when you deal with technology. Response equals get the URL in JSON, and then we're going to return that response. So that all is going to be set when we run this code. So while true, we're going to ask the question, response equals query with the weather value that's coming in. And if we take a look at the AI, now put it location. Oh, I need to fix some things here. Anyways, so query, let's call this weather. Anyways, answer as short as possible. Do not add any additional information upon this. Answer this question, what the query is, based off of this information, and this is going to be the weather information that comes in. Again, that should be called weather instead of location.
So is that like ampersand thing a pretty consistent thing across REST APIs, or is it like differ between the REST APIs?
This one, the and?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is when you're adding multiple values. So the question mark is when you start the variables coming in, and then you'll have variable and variable and variable. So as far as I know, it's standard. Again, it's technology, maybe not always, but should be. Yeah. So now I can say, so I'm here, I can run this, and I can say, should I wear a coat? Right? And this is the big thing to be thinking about with AI systems, is we want these systems to be much more human. Right? I don't necessarily even want to know the temperature or whatever. I just want to know what the answer is. Should I wear a coat? Yes, wear a coat. Right? I don't know. Why should I wear a coat? Because you will not tell me what to do, and I don't spell properly. That's the nice thing about LLMs. It's too hot. A coat would be uncomfortable. Oh, anyways. Oh, I don't know. What's the weather? There we go. Clear sky and 36.52 degrees. Right? So it's taking that whole JSON response and it's taking that down into something human readable that I understand. Yeah. Well, why shouldn't I wear a coat? Well, you shouldn't wear a coat if you're too hot. I mean, that is true. It's not based off of the data. This is actually one of the things that I do bring up, right? So when I do Silicon Dojo, again, to be clear, Silicon Dojo is completely based off of DEI and all that kind of stuff. This is about, I don't know if it's social justice. It's about we all need to raise our own ships. But I talk about that and a lot of people shut down. But one of the things I want you to understand, when we talk about diversity and we talk about going out and communicating with people, this actually becomes very important with LLMs. Like when you're just dealing with Python and we're dealing with math, you can just be in your little room and you can hate everybody and it doesn't really matter. One of the issues you start dealing with LLMs is different people talk to systems differently. And the LLM, remember the LLM, when you're dealing with words, it's not dealing with words, it's not intelligent. It takes words, parts of words, and symbols. It turns those into numbers. It then statistically understands the relationship of those numbers. It then, based off of that relationship, pulls out a whole bunch of other numbers, and then basically it's flipping over cards to say what the word is, what the response is. So it literally, there's no intelligence there, right? And so one of the problems you can get into is, especially like I traveled through India for 4 months years ago, and it was interesting. They speak English. I mean, like, I understand them, but it's definitely not the same English that I speak. And so if you have people that speak English differently, and literally they put in different punctuation, they say things slightly differently, the response you get out of the LLM might be something frickin' horrific. There's a new hacking technique out there, which is actually curious, of literally the idea is trying to hack LLMs literally based off of how you position the words. Because you can basically say a grammatically fine sentence, but they figured out if you can reposition where the words are in the sentence, you can actually confuse the LLM to break out of its safety guardrails. And so that's one of the reasons why it's important to have your users use the hell out of these systems to figure out where it breaks and where you have problems, right? Because
So it's for languages like Russian, because I'm speaking Russian.
yeah.
So basically, it doesn't matter which order you put the words in the sentence.
Okay.
It doesn't change meaning for our head.
Okay.
But for the LLMs,
Yeah.
it completely change meaning.
Yep. Yeah. So you can run into a problem. What's that?
Positional encoding.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why you should play around with this kind of stuff. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know. Oh, let's see. Let's see. I can say like, will it rain?
Probably snow.
No, it will not. I don't know. Will it snow? Will it snow? No. It's very, very, no. It is as short as possible. I did tell it short as possible, so there you go.
Sure.
And that's the other thing, too, to be thinking about like these LLMs. Like, it was interesting. Microsoft absolutely failed in Ireland when they initially went to Ireland. Because, again, something interesting to be thinking about, like the real world and human beings and how weird human beings are. So Microsoft got really serious about sexual harassment back in the 90s. So they had like a no tolerance policy for sexual harassment. And then they opened up an office in Ireland. And everything went to fucking hell because everybody there is very touchy-feely and way too close. And all of a sudden, everybody there was, basically getting into trouble. Was not a good thing. One of the things to be thinking about with your LLM systems, too, is, again, will this be off-putting to people, right? If your LLM system is simply saying no, is that actually going to be a turnoff for your users? Do they want some flowery language out of the system? Again, God bless, you all have to figure that out for your people. This is why I teach you and I don't support users anymore.
Does GPT-OSS have the temperature for everything?
With this, I don't, well, with Olama, I don't think you can put the temperature in. With OpenAI's API, there is a configuration for temperature, yeah. So basically with temperature, that allows you for like more variability, and you can start playing with that when you want to play with it. Okay.
Context between the messages?
What's that?
Does it have context between the messages? So when you send the second message, does it know that you asked the first question? Or
No, because that's the thing. Is like when we're building a system. So this system, we talk about architecture, and we talk about architecture. We actually had a class on this before, on SQL, structured query language. So basically what's happening here is we have our little user here. They're basically asking a question to Python. Python is then going up to these APIs, right? So it's going up to the location API first, and it's going to go back to the weather API, and it's going to pull that value in. That is then going to go to the LLM, and that's going to give you the response back. So when you're looking at this, nowhere in this did we create a memory. You're out? Yep. No. So basically, nowhere in this did we create a memory. So if we wanted to create a memory, basically what we would do is we'd have something, most likely a SQL database here. And what would happen is we would then take the query, and then we would take the response, and then we would put that into a record. We would put that into a table, so that would be your records. And then basically what you could do is in your Python, you could do the API call, then you could make a call to SQL, and then basically you could send the API plus the SQL to the LLM, and then it will give you a response based off of all of that. And again, that's where we go back to the whole thing of being AI. is if you talk about these things as LLMs, you don't assume that there's a memory there. When you talk about AI, it's just very natural just to start putting assumptions on top of it. Yeah.
So this is how ChatGPT works. It's a bunch of APIs that go out to different things to get the information you ask it.
This much more complicated. Yeah, their systems are basically how I'm showing you how to build little systems here. Imagine if each one of these little systems was like 10,000 lines of code. Like what they're doing is very complicated. Yeah. Because like with their systems, like their systems can now actually read web pages. So their systems they're not even using the text coming in from the web pages anymore. They're actually using vision models. So they're actually rendering the web page within their environment, and then they're using computer vision to understand what that web page is. Then it's pulling out specific information to give to you. So that's when you go to college, not here. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on things like weather? Okay. Then we can look at news. So basically, this is being able to pull news. Oh, let me show you the weather. Where is... Yeah, so this is the open weather, that API that we just used. So there's a lot of different information here you can get to. Basically, you can create an account. You can go to your account. You can create what are called API keys. Let me log in for a second. Come on, let me log in. All right. Come on. Damn it. There we go. So you can when you log in, this will give you your backend. So this will show you, what your API keys are here. That's one thing. If your API key gets released to the wild, that's why you want something called a key rotation, so that you have some system to be able to delete API keys within your code. But you can delete the API key here, or you can create new ones. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. So if you're trying to get specific information, you can go up to their API thing here. Let's see, there's a guide. So they have documentation. Current weather forecast updates every 10 minutes. So we can click on that. And so this is a weather forecast that updates every 10 minutes. As we can see here, this will give you, this is going to be that URL that you're going to use. Again, notice it's latitude and longitude along with API keys. And then you can add additional things, mode, again, units, language optional, that type of different stuff. So basically you can go here and all you're doing is copying and pasting what they give to you. That's one of the big things in the computer world, is just do not try to reinvent the wheel. One of the big problems I had with technology when I first started in this field is I tried to recreate everything. I tried to remember everything and then recreate it, and that's not how this shit works. It's like, put that in, just that, nothing else. That works. Anyways, so that's open weather. So that's open weather, openweathermap.org if you want to play with that. If you go to pricing on that, you can see, I don't know. Yeah, first 1,000 API calls per day are free. Each additional call costs 0.0015 cent. So basically this is a fifth of a penny per additional call. And again, what you have to think about is if you're in a small environment, that doesn't matter. If you're in a large environment, that might actually turn out to some money. So that's something to consider. So let's go take a look at the news API.
Is there a directory of APIs, common APIs, and what they offer?
Google Weather API, yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah. So it's like if you're looking for like weather, and that's one of the things to be thinking about when you're building systems. And this is where you break down your problem. It's like, okay, what information do I need? I need weather information. How do I want to get it? REST API. How much do I want to spend? Free. And then you go to Google. Free weather REST API. And then you basically figure out what you want to use. Yeah. And ask other people. And that's where different companies have different information and things. So let's go to news then. If we go to 9, page 9, new REST news. Okay, so our last class that we did is a better way to get the news. So this is just showing you how to use a REST API. Since we're in this class, it'll give us news. We did the class last couple weeks ago with AI and web scraping. There is a module called Feed Parser that can directly scrape RSS feeds, and there's something called Beautiful Soup, which can actually scrape web pages themselves. So that is a superior way to bring news into your app. But this is a news API just to kind of show you how this works. All right. So let's see here. Let me minimize these functions. Okay. So we got Olama, we got request like we got before, and then we're going to have a function called get news, right? And then we have the AI function. So news equals get news. What's going to happen here is we're going to go to this REST API. We have a key, so this is going to need a key too. You get so many requests, I think it's 50 requests per day or something like that. Anyways, request.get newsapi.org, top headlines, question mark, country equals US. You can plug in country, but it only accepts one country. Again, that's the other weird thing with like APIs. Remember, all this technology is built like people like you. If you're like, why isn't it better? Like, ask yourself why your own code isn't any better. Anyways, equals US, and then we're going to feed the API key. So we need that API key, and then we do this method.json, so it comes back as a JSON value. Right, so we're going to get this whole JSON value back, and that is going to be a disaster. So what do I actually want out of the JSON? Right, what I'm going to want is the source name. So where is this coming from? TechCrunch, Bloomberg, Reuters, whatever else. I want the title, so the article title, and I want the article description. So basically this is going to come back, it's going to give me the name of the source, it's going to give me the title, and it's going to give me the description. Then, since I'm going to feed this to an LLM, I'm just putting these stars in here just to kind of differentiate each post so it has an idea of what's going on. So news is initially going to equal nothing, and then news plus equals, what's going to happen is it's just going to continually add this to that variable value. Then we're going to go down here to the while true loop. We get to ask a question. Response equals AI query plus the news. Can you hit the door back there since they're coming in? There we go. So we're going to feed it both the news and our query. We go up here. The AI function looks a lot the same. Again, the same stuff. We're going to use GPT OSS because Pi 3 is a complete disaster on this project. So answer as short as possible. Do not add any additional information. Answer this query based on this news. Right? So the query and the news. And so I can run this, and I can simply, oops. What the hell are you doing?
How big is the JSON with that?
Wait a minute, hold on. Oh, I printed the news there. Oh, wait a minute, let me show you one thing. So I'm going to print the news, and just to show you, so this is where the source name is, then we're going to have the title, and then we're going to have the description. So we're having that for all of these different things. This is what's actually coming into the script. I'm sorry, what was that again?
No. You showed it.
Oh, okay. So that's coming in. So basically, I can run this, and then I can say, what's the question? So I can say, what was the big news today? And this will take a second. This is the other thing to be thinking about when you're creating your user interface. Do you want people to be able to ask questions in real time? Oh, yeah, geez. Or do you want, like, if they go to a home page, do you want pre-asked questions that it will simply refresh every few minutes? So when somebody goes to the home page, they get an instantaneous response. So to them, it's instantaneous, when in reality, it took 30 seconds to process. Anyway, so what's that?
No, I was just saying the big news was, what is it, Dell.
Yeah.
Donated like $6.8 billion to 25 million.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Like that.
What happened with Dell? I don't know.
I don't know if it was the actual computer people. But
Yeah, the Dell guy saw that. No information about Dell.
family last night.
What happened with tech today? There you go. Valve is funding FEX to let ARM phones run Windows games, while Samsung has announced the Galaxy Z Trifold, a 10-inch foldable phone. Yeah. So like this is the kind of thing, so again, you can have the LLM, so you can go out, get that REST information, and then for your individual users, you could say, you know, answer these particular questions. I want to know about national disasters, I want to know about politics, I want to know about computers, and then it can actually pull that out for you. So this kind of gives you an idea of how to dynamically bring some information in. Any questions with that? Yeah. Okay, then we go to country information, and then we get to the final one. So we're doing pretty good today. There we go. So country information, this is kind of an example of where you can use, well, supposedly, the project didn't quite work how I wanted it to do, but theoretically go with me on this. So there's a big question right now on, do we need better LLMs or do we need better data retrieval sources? So one of the things you're hearing right now is Sam Altman just did this code red for OpenAI because Gemini 3 Pro is now supposedly better than ChatGPT. Right? But one of the interesting things that comes out is when they talk about this, they're actually training the models. So they're putting a tremendous amount of information into these models, and they're trying to figure out better ways for the models to be able to basically answer. Right? Well, there's an interesting thing called RAG. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation. And there's other ways to put data into an AI system where basically you have a much more normal database system. So like with RAG, what happens is there's something called vector databases. So when you ask a question, what happens is information gets chunked. So let's say you have a lot of documentation. You have all this documentation. That documentation gets turned into chunks. And then there are what are called vectors created about each one of those chunks. And so basically this is a mathematical representation of the information within that chunk. So when you ask a question to the LLM, what's going to happen is it's going to go to the database and it's going to find results in the database where the vectors are the closest to the question that you're asking. So it gets really fucking stupid. Anyways. And so what happens then is it will then only pull out the specific chunks that might be relevant to the question that you're asking. It will then feed those chunks along with your query to the LLM to try to get a better response. So instead of the LLM, quote unquote, knowing information, it's actually this data store, this record store that has all this information and try to pull things in that way. So an interesting question then is basically, do you really need better LLMs or do you need better ways to pull in information so that the LLM can answer questions more appropriately? So that's kind of sort of where we're going with this country information REST API thing. So if we take a look here, basically what happens is we're looking for information about a particular country. So the idea is we bring in this information about this particular country, and then we're going to answer the question based off of the information that comes in from this REST API call. So instead of answering from the LLM's knowledge, we're answering from the response coming in from REST API. And so the concept there is, can we use a smaller LLM simply because we're pulling in just normal information in order to try to give the response. Again, I try to make those work with Pi 3. It did not. It was not pretty. It was not pretty. But it does give you a basic concept of what we're trying to do here. Okay, so with this, we're doing the country API instead of weather. So Olama, we got request. So we're going to get our country. So for location, basically, again, for this function, what we're doing is country equals response country. Same thing we've done before, only we're getting country now. We're going to return the country. Right? Then we're going to get country data. So we go to the country API call. And here, so URL equals restcountries.com, name, so the country that we're in, so United States, Argentina, whatever else, and we're going to return that response back, and that's going to be that ugly-ass JSON response. So we get the while true loop. So query equals basically what your question is. Then we're going to feed that query along with the country data to AI. And this is where we get a little weird. Again, with these prompts, this is what we call prompt engineering. It's more prompt, bang your head against the wall until you get something that works properly. So, because one of the problems that I had here, which was very interesting, it probably might run into, is that the LLM does have information that it knows. So does it answer based off of the data that you're giving it, or does it answer based off of the data that it already has embedded into it? And so you can run into some really weird problems trying to get it to give you the answer based off of key value pairs. So what we're going to say here is answer as short as possible, only answer the question, answer this question, so what the query is, and then this is where provide the value from the key value pairs in this JSON, location, only provide the value from the data provided. So don't Give me your crap. I don't want your crap. I just want it from this, right? So when we go here, we're going to do a question. And let's see here. What does my flag look like? And so it should be looking for the United States. And it's GPT-OSS. And this is the thing you got to think about with architecture. How quickly do you need this response back? So this is a $3,000 computer, and it takes about this amount of time. So do you want to, it is $40,000? Like if you need a chat level response, you need to spend $40,000. If this thing is just processing in the background, you can use a potato, right? It's one of the things to think about. What the fuck?
Where's my country?
Describe my flag. Well, I like the flag thing because there's actually a description for the flag in their database.
Put 50 stars.
Oh, it did?
No, it didn't.
I don't know what it did. It did something there.
U.S.
U.S. Like, what is my flag? U.S. Like, I don't even know what that means. Maybe that's in the JSON. Maybe there's some weird thing in the JSON.
Is it an emoji?
Yeah, it might be an emoji.
How did he get that? That's weird.
Yeah, that's the whole. Okay, the flag of the United States of America is composed of 13 equal horizontal bands of red alternating with white. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. That gives me a not found. So let's see, U.S. United. Does that work? Okay, United States. Oh no. God damn it. What are we going? Okay, let me go to Spain. Let's go to Spain. Belgium, Finland, Italy, South Africa, go to Spain. Now, let me take a picture of everybody. I keep forgetting to take a picture while everybody's here. Remember, it's not on the internet. It's not real. There we go. Okay.
It's not letting this.
Okay, so let me redo this. Okay. Describe my flag. And as it's doing that, I should be able to go here. And what we're looking for is, okay, so flags, right? The flag of Spain is composed of 3 horizontal bands of red, yellow, and red, with the yellow band twice the height of the red bands, blase, blase. The flag of Spain is composed of 3 horizontal bands of red, yellow, and red, with the yellow band twice the height. Yay! So it answered based off of that data. And so that's the kind of thing to be thinking about when you start building these AI systems is can you bring in things? Again, we talk about things like hallucinations, right? So hallucinations happen because it's trying to statistically bring these tokens together to give you an answer. So one way you might be able to cut down on hallucinations is if you can feed it a level of information that should provide the answer, and it provides the answer from that information instead of from itself.
This has nothing to do with anything, but when you said the color of the flag of Spain, I thought about Barcelona, the soccer team. Like I thought that was the color of the flag of Spain.
No.
I don't know. I digress.
Don't know.
I was like, I see so much Barcelona. I'm like, the color is red. I thought it was red and blue.
No.
Just got a little red.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the country information, or basically the idea we're doing here? Yep.
Is there ever a use case where you don't want just like a string output from the LLM, but maybe like a set of key value pairs?
Well, so one of the things, so the final thing we're going to be doing is actually function routing. So with that, we're actually going to get a function name and then be able to call the function. So we're actually going to use 2 LLMs. So we're going to ask it a question. It's going to tell us which function it thinks is appropriate, and then it's going to fire that function off. So yes, and that's where we were talking about that in previous classes. So it's something called structured data. And so depending on your LLM and a whole bunch of other things, you can get structured data. So basically what you can say is, I want a JSON response that looks like this. I want name, age, social security number, and then again, depending on your LLM, it might give you that in a JSON response. Yeah. So yeah, that's called structured data. So you can just Google search that. And again, it depends. I will tell you, GPT OSS is actually really good with structured data. Like, you don't have to do anything additional and it'll spit out structured data. There are other models that you can use within OLLAMA, and you have to use some additional modules, and basically it cleans up the data that comes out. So yeah.
I got a question about terminology.
Yep.
So RAG, would this be an example of RAG?
No, this would not be RAG. RAG is a whole mess. We're going to have a whole class one night on RAG. This is...
Is it like tool use maybe?
This might sort of be tool. This would more be like, there's something called CAG. Like, it gets stupid. It's called cache augmented generation. And so the idea is that you have a cache of data that you feed to your AI system along with what your query is. So this would probably be more, if you're going to go to it, you'd probably be more CAG. Then it definitely isn't RAG. No.
And would, when you go to chatgpt.com,
Yep.
is that really an implementation of RAG? Or...
Yeah, well, see, that's one of the issues you get into, especially when you start talking about AI and LLM, is you've got to, it's kind of like, it's like when you go to Google in 2025. So when you went to Google in 2000, Google was a search engine, right? But the funny part is so I got into a bit of a snark fest with a very good friend, very smart MIT graduate, to be clear, very smart friend of mine, where I was talking about how shit OpenAI was with math. And he was like, well, you wouldn't ask Google a math question. And I was like, yeah, I would. You just plug in the fucking math and it literally has a math subroutine that now spits out the answer for you. So Google is a search engine, but it is also a ton of other things right now. And so that's where you get into with when you actually use ChatGPT or these other things, it is an LLM, but then it has just a tremendous number of other subsystems in there. And again, it's kind of like it's that black box. I really don't know what's on the other side of that. So yeah.
So would you technically call that RAG?
No, like RAG is RAG. RAG is RAG. So like even with so if you use OpenAI's API, they actually now have a RAG service. And so like normally with what RAG services are is imagine your company has a tremendous amount of documentation. So imagine you're a technology company, you've actually been building, God help you, building documentation for the past 10 years. And so this wouldn't be publicly available information. This would be internal stuff. So that's why you would create RAG. So you would create a RAG database system, basically that would contain all of your proprietary information. So when you make the request, it will pull out specific chunks that should help answer your question and then feed that. So that's more what RAG is about. Yeah. Yeah.
Would the company be putting that information in the cloud, or would it be on site?
Yeah, beware. That's its own architecture question. Yeah. Yeah, because with RAG, all it is a database system. So RAG, you can actually run RAG off of SQLite. So SQLite is a database system we use here a lot, which is dirt simple. You can use it with Postgres. You can use it with a whole bunch of different databases. So it's just a database type. Yeah. Okay, so this is function routing. So this is actually kind of cool. So this is where you get more into sophisticated, something you would call AI. So let me run this thing for you. REST AI functions. Okay. So again, this is where we start talking about like, what does artificial intelligence start looking like? So I can say, how long till breakfast? Right? Maybe I'm hungry for breakfast. So this is going out, and it has multiple functions that are actually built into it. One of the functions is a time function. So what this is doing here is it's determining what function should fire off. So the function that should fire off for this is the clock. And then it takes the current information of almost 8 o'clock and it says, okay, breakfast is approximately 11 hours away, right? So I say, do I need a coat? So it goes to the weather function. It's pulling all of these JSON values like I showed you before. And it's saying no, because it thinks I'm in frickin' somewhere else. It thinks I'm in Spain. So if I was in Spain, it would be fine. right? So I can say, do I need a coat? And I can misspell it. Weather. No, it's about 36 degrees Celsius. Okay, whatever. What?
It said no.
It says no. It says Morrisville?
That's
Yeah, minimum temperature.
Just messing up with the Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah, it thinks it's Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. Yeah, okay. Yeah, again, things you got to tweak with. But what's really cool here is, right, so one of the big things to be thinking about with LLMs is that it gives you the ability for your users to start using natural speech for these systems. Like, so if anybody remembers back in the day with the original Palm Pilots, if you wanted to use a Palm Pilot, you actually had to write in this thing called graffiti. Like, you had to relearn how to write so that the Palm Pilot understood what the hell you were writing. So now we have these normal systems where you can just scribble whatever the hell you want and it'll figure it out. One of the cool things with putting LLMs on here is you can start to have your users be able to ask in their language, right? And again, remember with programming, most of the time with programming, you have to hard code things. So if you wanted to localize a program, you would actually have to localize it on the language. You know, if you're gonna do it Spanish, you know, K or a S, all of that crap, you'd have to write it, right? Well, what's really cool here is, I don't know, K or a S, my limited Spanish. Yeah, what time is it? So clock, and it tells me it's 7:47. So what's cool about this, right? I can say, I don't know, ni hao. That'd be really bad. What will it give me with ni hao? Hello. So, yo, dude, gives a response to yo, dude. So, yo, what's up, right? So I didn't even spell ni hao right, and it figured it out.
Just doesn't remember from question to question.
No, there's no memory on this one. And so that's what's cool here about with this LLM is basically I have a number of different functions here. What's happening is I'm using two LLMs. When I make the request, or when I'm making the query, it figures out what function I'm actually asking for, and then it basically goes to that function, it pulls a response, it then gets the response along with my query, figures out what the answer should be, and then gives me the human readable thing. So let's take a look at this for a second. So the first thing we look at is the functions. So I have this script called func.py. So I'm able to import this into my AI functions. Come on. All right. So basically at the top here, you'll notice I have a llama like I had before, but I can actually import a different file. So I can import a Python script, and that's where I've got this whole list of functions here, right? And so I can create all the functions I want to create. So with this, whenever you create a file like this, you do have to import the modules that are going to be used within this particular file. So I import requests because I need the request module, and I import date time. That's what gives me the time. So the first thing I have here is define hello, right? So this is just a function called hello, message equals yo dude, so return that message, right? So if I say bonjour, it will return yo dude, and then it'll say this person said bonjour. This is a normal response, yo dude, and so it'll figure out what it should tell me. Bye, message is see ya buddy, we'll return that message. Clock, right? So basically all this is current time equals datetime.datetime.now. This is basically just how you get the current time. We're gonna return what that current time is. We're gonna have a location. So this is going to give us our latitude, longitude. It's gonna return that location, and we use that for weather. And so with weather, right, we have the same thing. We have latitude and longitude that are coming. Wait a minute. Define. Well, we'll get the latitude. Oh, I do that anywhere. Anyways, and then we have the key response, and then we're going to return the value from weather. So we have hello, goodbye, we have time, we have location, and we have weather. So basically, if we go to this REST API thing, we can take a look at this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to import the function. So when we import that file, that means all of those functions are now going to be accessible to us. So we can call those functions. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called functions, and we're going to read all the text from the function file into that variable. So basically this is now something that the LLM is going to be able to read, right? So we come down here, Basically, we say a query, input what our question is, response equals AI underscored LLM with query and functions. So our question is going to go in here, and all of that text with our functions is going to go in here. We're going to look at this. Basically, we're going to use GPT OSS because if you use Pi 3, it's an absolute disaster. So again, this is the other thing with playing around with what LLMs to use. So, query. What is the query? Which function from this list of functions is best for the query? Answer only with a function and no other words, functions. And again, this is where you try to explain to the damn thing, only give you what you want. So hopefully it's going to just give me the function name back. And that's where you saw, again, where it printed out the clock, right? So this is where we print out the function name. So hello, goodbye, clock, weather. That's what's getting printed out here. So response equals, we're going to replace parentheses. So again, it might come back with just the word. It might come back with parentheses, some other stuff. So we try to clean this up. It's called sanitizing the value that comes back. And then this little thing here is actually kind of cool. This is a way to actually turn that value. So when that value comes back, that value is going to be a string data type. So the string data type is worthless because that's not actually a function. So we have this if has attribute function from the function that's getting imported, that function list getting imported, response. Basically, this is going to turn this into a function, and response is going to equal that function. So basically what's going to happen here is the response now is going to be the function name. If the function doesn't exist for some reason, it'll say no such function exists and what that name is. We're going to then print out the function response. So basically, response equals, and we're going to print out what the response is. So AI answers equals AI response, query, response. So basically, this is where we're going to fire off the function that we're going to get. So for clock, for weather, for goodbye, for hello. We're going to print out what the response is. So that's where we saw yo dude or see ya dude or the JSON response. Then we're going to feed the query and the entire response into AI answer or AI response, sorry. And this is where we say, okay, answer this query and nothing else. Make the answer short. The query is this based off of this data. So this data is going to be coming in. And then we're going to print out what that answer is. And that's basically what gets us to what I was showing you before. Feel that was a bit convoluted. Can anybody explain that themselves? Do you understand sort of what's going on here? A little bit. There you go. Hey, if you learn two things, that's fine. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, so this is where, again, and this is where we start getting into more of this intelligence. And this is where I want you to understand is this is far beyond the LLM, right? Again, we talk about the LLM, we talk about that being intelligence. Notice, right, now we have a whole list of functions. Some of the functions, right, some of the functions here, are REST API calls. Some of the functions here are just based off of data that's in the operating system. Some of the functions here are simply static responses. And so basically what we do is we use this LLM to say which function is appropriate for what we're talking about. We bring that data in, and then we use a different LLM call in order to actually be able to put that human readable thing there. The other thing that's interesting with this isn't a good example of it, but if you start going to meetups around here where IBM starts talking about LLMs, one of the interesting things that IBM is really pushing with LLMs is the idea of stacking LLMs. The idea is, when we talk about the AI stack, they actually talk about the LLM stack. The idea that you should have 10 LLMs just as the LLM, right? So basically with this, up here for when you're trying to figure out what function to use, right, you might use one specific LLM for that. You might use a micro LLM that's specifically designed to only pick out functions. Whereas then when you come down here for the response, you might use a larger LLM that's better with more floral responses. Then under here, again, if you're going to IBM and you have enough money for $40,000 servers, which I don't, under here, you might then validate the response. You might have an LLM that says, with this request and with this information and with this response, is this response appropriate for what we were just given? And if not, then feed all of that possibly to an entirely different LLM to try to give a better response back and go through the validation process. And so this is where we start talking about that whole stacking of LLMs. And again, this is where we talk about the AI stack. This is just simply, and again, I really want to reinforce that to everybody. When everybody starts talking about artificial intelligence nowadays, people are so depressed about AI. Again, I've done technology for 30 years. I've never seen people so goddamn depressed about technology in my life. Technology professionals depressed about technology. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing these classes. It's just a stack. Right? This is, I mean, yes, it's going to be different. When I started in technology, you have to understand, we didn't really have Google. I had a buddy of mine, and there was something called the TechNet subscription. So you would pay Microsoft $450 a year, and they would send you all of their white papers on CDs. You would get a book of CDs. You would then install the index, just the index, onto your computer. And when you had a question about Active Directory or whatever else, it would then tell you what CD to pull out, put that CD in, and figure things out, right? And then we got Google. God bless, we got Google. And then we got Stack Overflow. Like, my job didn't disappear because of Google or Stack Overflow. And again, with AI, your job is not going to disappear. And like, this is going to be required. So what?
So I just went to ChatGPT and I just wrote in there, AI is not intelligence.
Yeah.
And it said back to me, literally, said, Stephen, here's the real play. AI isn't intelligence, it's precision, just like Eli, the computer guy, said.
What?
I swear to God, you said that.
Oh my God.
I swear to God.
That's the response
That's the
without
response.
prompting that you're
What was the
here.
question?
I just wrote, AI isn't intelligence.
Eli is not intelligent. Stephen, here's
Was you
the...
right, AI is not, or is it?
It's not. Yeah, I said, AI
Just like Eli Computer has said, people confuse genius with exactness.
That's just, yeah.
I just
I got to take a picture of that. I don't know. I don't even know what to do with that. Oh, well, there you go.
Wow, you're on ChatGPT radar now.
There you go. See, ChatGPT. That's, I guess I'm...
That's crazy.
That is...
Is it like listening to it?
You must be the only person that said that. That's why I got it.
That is fucking scary. I might be, but that's scary. Well, yeah, well, because it's training, right? So I do 3 videos a day at least that get published to YouTube, and so it's scrubbing all of those transcripts. So I mean, I grasp the concept that it knows what I said, but that's weird, I've got to say. Okay, so that's
If you give a different response when you come back home.
yeah. maybe it knows you're.
Another AI
I think that's candid though, huh?
I don't know. That's curious. So that's basically, that is the seminar part of the class tonight. So anybody who wants to stick around, if you actually want to build some of these little things, again, some of this code is pretty short. You can do it in a few minutes. If you'd like to be here and actually try to build some of this stuff, I can help you out and do that, or you can leave. I will tell everybody, because honestly everybody seems to be leaving, is I will remind you, you don't learn code by osmosis. You're not like, oh, yeah, I know code. I listened to Eli for 2 hours tonight, and I'm an expert. That's not how this shit works, like understanding where commas go and all that kind of stuff. So again, if you want to stick around, I will help everybody who wants to stick around. If you want to run away, this is the end of the seminar. Any final questions then?
I'm still waiting for KONIS on my No, we were doing questions or whatever. I was trying to follow along.
Oh, yeah.
And it's still, because I tried the OSS and it was like, your computer is not good enough for that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I tried the Pi 3 and it's probably been like 20, 30 minutes waiting for the answer.
Really?
And it's still going.
What's your computer?
Is this a Surface, Microsoft Surface Pro 11, I think? Or 11?
Oh, okay.
How much RAM?
Yeah, how much RAM do you have?
16?
16.
That's a lot right now.
Yeah.
Well, back if you used Google to log into Meetup and used Google to log into ChatGPT, that's probably how it knows how to reference.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
Probably,
3.
Does it do that? I didn't know.
Oh, let's see here. K or S. See how long it takes. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is Pi 3. So it was that quick. It's a garbage response. So
Okay, so maybe I did something.
So K or S, okay, so it comes back with clock. Since the query is asking for the current time, which function would provide that information using date time in Python? Clock, that's why clock, no such function in function pi. Clock, since the query is, anyways, yeah, Pi 3 again. Pi 3 gives you responses. But yeah, that's why like working with these different models is interesting. Like, like IBM. Again, I talk a lot about IBM because I'd be really happy if IBM sponsored me. I'm just saying. Anyways, I talk about IBM, but it's interesting. Like IBM is like really focused on enterprise communication. So a lot of their stuff, like they only train their LLMs on corporate communication. So again, something you have to think about. ChatGPT is trained on Reddit. What's called Granite, their LLMs are trained on corporate communication. So if you're trying to create corporate communication, whose LLM do you want to use? But one of the things is, so like they have, it's called Dockling, and it's their model is very specifically designed only for document understanding, basically a higher level of OCR. And so it's really small. It's like a 500 meg model. It's incredibly small, but it's only designed to do that. And so that's with a lot of these projects. Again, if you're actually going to deploy any of this, a lot of it is playing around with the different models to figure out what model gives you the best results with the least resource utilization. And it's a lot of playing around, yeah.
And everybody's doing model routing now with their, like, you can pick whatever model you want, but it'll try to pick the best model for you, depending on what question you ask.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can just leave it there. I'll grab it. Yep.
Well, couldn't you get a model to just do the Python for you?
What's that?
Just get a model to do the Python for you.
For like figuring out what function is, or well, you get a model to write all your Python. God help you, what it would actually create, though.
I know coders are using, are literally getting the code written themselves by like Copilot or something. Why can't you have it done? Have a model that can just write it. Why wouldn't that work?
Oh well, there's things that technically work. So yes, so when you go to a Llama, you can find models that have only been designed for coding. So you can. So basically, and that's kind of vibe coding. So I could create a system to vibe code where I would say, I want a program to do X, Y, or Z, and I could create the LLM that would then write all the code, and then basically with Python, I could then save that to a file. So I could have it automatically. The issue that you run into is if you don't understand this, again, remember, like, this stuff LLMs hallucinate, so you have no idea what it might be hallucinating. So it might hallucinate, and again, that's where I went to a meetup last night with LexisNexis, and they were talking about that. It might hallucinate like the command to delete your drive. And if you don't understand what it's putting out, like there was a person there that made a very good example of using like vibe coding. And he said, look, if vibe coding saves you a month of writing code, you should invest 1 day in auditing the frickin' code that comes out of it to verify it's not going to wipe your systems. And so that's the issue that we get to, like with vibe coding, is you need to know this so that if the LLM spits out code, you have the ability to read the code that's coming out. It's kind of like, think about this. Think about if you are the editor for a magazine and you're the editor for a French magazine. Your writers are writing all of your articles. So you're outsourcing writing the article. But you need to be able to read the article they're giving you to know what the hell the article is talking about. And so that's what we're getting to this world of vibe coding, is it's basically what's called a force multiplier. It allows us to write code so much quicker, but that doesn't mean we can not understand what it's writing.
Especially when you try to
Yeah.
tailor it to what you want it to do. You don't know exactly where to go in and fix what, because it wrote the whole thing for you, and then you try to go in.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I get worried about vibe coding. Again, especially it's weird being in technology for like 30 years. Like I've been in technology longer than a lot of my viewers have been alive, which is a very bizarre thing. And one of the things I was just talking to Ryan about earlier is I remember when PHP came out. So PHP is a programming language. Basically, it's used for dynamically creating web pages. And so you can you can use PHP to read from a database and basically be able to dynamically build web pages. You can use it to create HTML for HTML forms to pull in information. And basically the idea, the selling point was, back in the late 90s, and I remember when this was a selling point, is this is a programming language that is easy enough for secretaries to use. right? And a lot of people laugh at the idea of secretaries programming, but again, I don't understand why. It's all pretty simple shit. The problem was not secretaries learning how to code, right? Because it was pretty simple. The problem is how the hell do you support legacy code that was created by secretaries? Think about this, right? So one secretary creates this application for being able to dynamically send out emails. And then secretaries, right? Maybe they're there for 6 months, maybe they're for a year, whatever else. Then you get the next secretary. Maybe the next secretary doesn't understand PHP, right? What if this PHP breaks later? And what you find out in the real world is the real value proposition is not the initially writing the code. The real value proposition is writing code that can be supported for a decade. And so if you use a vibe coding routine and you're not able to audit it, you might have code that works. And God help you, it might actually be secure and not blow everything up. The question you have to ask is in 2 years, when you hand this code base off to some other poor bastard, will they have any clue what to do with it? Like are you designing the code so that you can add modules to it later? Right? So again, think about extending your application. So if you're writing the code, you're going to say, oh, I know I need to put in some subsystem. So even if I don't want modules now, I want to build in something so I can have modules later. And that's the kind of stuff that we get into with actually building out systems that kind of get lost in a lot of the vibe coding things. Yeah.
Do you think the coding's getting easier though?
Oh yeah, coding's getting a lot easier. Yeah. Well, because a lot of the coding is getting easier. Like with things like OpenAI. So one of the problems for me is, again, I'm an old school Windows NT guy. Like literally, when I was sent in, they just told us to fix it, and half the time we didn't even know what the fuck we were fixing. Like I literally walked in one of my clients' offices. They need their systems up and running by the end of the day because they need to send out a contract for $5 million. Right? Okay, fine. That's a level of stress, whatever. So anyway, so I walk into their server room and I'm like, okay, what do these servers do? Fucking secretary, no fucking clue what these servers do. Okay, no worries. I'm a computer guy, I'll figure out the servers. Literally, right before she walks the fuck out the door, she looks at me and says, oh, and we share this server room with another tenant in the building, so don't fuck with their boxes. And I'm like, what? Literally, they were using a software called Primavera because they're a construction company. I literally was on the phone with their support and literally they said, okay, so is this self-hosted or are we hosting it for you? And I was like, I have no clue. Could you please tell me? Right. So anyways, one of the big things for me, like with coding, again, I used to do Visual Basic and PHP and a lot of other things. And the issue that you get in with coding is all this. The basic concept is the same. Functions are functions, loops are loops, all this kind of stuff. The syntax is different, like things called delimiters. So in PHP, the delimiter is a semicolon. In Python, basically the delimiters are these code blocks, basically indentations. You get to JavaScript. I fucking hate JavaScript with a passion. And so like the issue is, like if I'm going to use JavaScript, I know what JavaScript is for. JavaScript is a front-end language to dynamically allow things to happen on a web page. And so I want, when somebody comes to the web page, for something to dynamically show up. And it's like, okay, I know I need to make this REST API call. I know I need to write to the page. I know I need a trigger and all these kind of things. But where's the comma go? And so I can go to ChatGPT and I can say, this is exactly what I need. I know sanitization and validation and all that kind of stuff. Where does the comma go? Right? And that saves you. I mean, that saves you a day's worth of fucking work. Because again, like with all of this, I mean, look at all these commas. You forget one comma. And so like VS Code is very good because 99% of the time when it errors out, it will tell you what line the thing errored out on and you fix it. 99% of the time. 1% of the time, it's telling you the error is on line 500 when the actual error was on line 5. And so that's where you can feed this shit to ChatGPT and say, where's the comma go? And they go, there. I'm like, okay, thank you. Right? And so that's what makes us quicker, right? And I would argue, again, that's the mentality of this, is it's not that you don't need to learn Python. It's not that you don't need to understand JavaScript. It's that it just makes it a hell of a lot easier because everybody fat fingers, everybody fucks up. Like I have a buddy of mine, comp sci graduate, incredibly brilliant guy, And yeah, he wrote this code. He works for a big Silicon Valley company. He wrote this code. The code was validated. The code went through all of the checking processes. Everybody gave the thumb up. They deployed the code, fucking crashed the entire goddamn company, right? Because and again, nobody they had a routine. It went through the routine and nobody caught the problem. And well, yeah, not for cloud. Oh, I want to be one there, right? And so, anyways, that's where like the LLMs can be useful. Again, with all these code support, is it's just you can run through and you can say, oh, shouldn't there be a comma here? Oh, there should be a comma there, right? And that just makes things quicker and better. But that's where I also say, like, the job for real tech professionals is not going to go away. My argument is if your CEO starts vibe coding, find a new job. Again, like one of the things that pisses off all my viewers is I try to explain to people, like, CEOs have real jobs. Like, you see CEOs out there schmoozing and drinking all the time. You don't know how miserable that is until it's the fourth night in a row and you're looking down at a glass of wine thinking, I would rather kill myself than drink this fucking glass of wine. And then you drink, you smile, oh, who are you? Oh, I mean, oh yeah, da. Like, right? And so I try to explain to people that CEOs have real jobs. Like, maybe they get paid a little bit too much money, but they do have real jobs. But on the other hand, I also try to explain to CEOs, your fucking devs have real jobs too. They're actually making money for doing something. And that's one of the problems in the corporate world is everybody looks at everybody else thinking they get money for nothing. And it's like, no, let the CEO schmooze 5 days a week and let the fucking devs write your code and let's not try to do each other's jobs. No. But anyways. Any other questions or? Next class. So the next class is on Moondream. It is on the 17th. It's on Silicon Dojo, so you can sign up for it. Yep. And remember, we're taking attendance. What's that? Yeah, that was the last class. So you can take that paper if you want. You can take any paper you want. Yes.
So if you have a database or any set of data that you want to make like available to others,
yep.
When do you say I just need to give these people like read access to the database versus I need a REST API?
So basically, when you give access to the database, generally you're going to give access to databases for your internal systems, right? So if you have your internal infrastructure, your architecture, and so let's say your CRM solution needs access to the main database. So let's say you have an inventory system and a CRM solution and some kind of Slack type solution. You might have a back-end database, and so the coders for those different platforms will get connections to that database, but that's all internal. Generally, depending on exactly what the hell you're doing, you'd most likely use APIs essentially for customers or clients. So if you have customers that are connecting in, you'd use the APIs. Yeah. And it's also for things like, so if everything's communicating over the local network, you can secure it a lot better. You can have your normal firewall rules. You can have your intrusion detection, all that kind of thing. The nice thing about building systems with APIs is there's just so much less plane of attack, right? It should only respond to very specific request things and will only respond in very specific ways. So it makes it harder to do things like SQL injection attacks. So that's the kind of thing, yeah.
When you're writing an API, you got to make sure it's only allowing you access to certain things. Or do you do that on the other side? No, it's when you got your...
Well, you do it the whole way through. That's one thing with security. Like, people don't seem to understand about security is that it should be what they call an onion. Like, the idea, like, if I'm building my infrastructure, and so in the Microsoft world, it used to be at least be called a global administrator account. I should be able to put my global administrator username and password on a fucking billboard on the interstate, and my systems should still be secure. Because there should be no way for that thing to be able to VPN. So the idea is even if credentials are leaked, you have multiple layers of security so that you don't have a problem. And so that's why, like, when you create an API, right? So that's basically creating a wall and a door. So you can only request certain information, it will only send certain information. But then within your infrastructure, right, you're going to have your databases, maybe in a cluster, that kind of thing. In your infrastructure, you're going to have firewalls in your SQL database. So again, we talk about something called SQLite. This is a relational database system. So with relational database management systems, they're software, just like any other software. So like SQLite has no security. Fucking none. You can literally open SQLite in a text editor if you really want to and pull information out. On the other hand, if you use Postgres or MySQL, it actually has a privilege system in there. So basically a permission system. So what you would do is you would create different accounts that have different permissions. So this account has a permission to do inserts. This account has a permission to do updates. And so when somebody comes in with that REST API, that would trigger a particular script. That script would use an account with a specific level of permissions. So again, even if they could fucking get an injection into your systems, if the user account that is firing off that script only has the select privileges, then even if they do try to get an insert or an update or something else through, it will not have the permissions to be able to allow that action to occur. And so yeah, that's where you get into security. And the reason why security is so bad lately is because people aren't building the systems these ways. Yeah. All right. Yeah, 17th. You're gonna type away. You're gonna get VS Code running.
He might.
Why you gonna use VS Code running? You can do it.
It's another platform you could use if you have limited resources. Like, could you use like a Google Colab, maybe use Google servers?
Oh, to run?
To run, yeah.
So basically what I would say, OpenAI's API is fucking terrific, and it's dirt. I mean, like nowadays it's dirt cheap. It's like 1 million tokens for $1.50. So again, I have a class on the OpenAI. If you've been doing tech for a while, you should be able to figure it out pretty easily. It's just basically that, only slightly differently. So that's what I would do. If I was going to do it, I would just use OpenAI and put $10 into your account. Should be good for 2 years probably. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because the issue you're going to run into is if you try to run Olama, is like when I've looked at it like DigitalOcean or something, you need to spend like $50 a month to actually have, because it's a virtual server, and so you got to have enough RAM. And like that's the thing is like when you're doing these micro instances, it's $5 a month. It's dirt cheap.
Right.
But when you actually start to need some real resources, it gets expensive shockingly quick. Yeah.
Yeah, the cost.
Yeah. Yeah, they get you in. That's how they get the startups in. They're like, it's almost free. Yeah, it's like, yeah, until you scale, right up until you scale, yeah.
You get some users.
I'm learning. I'll have some questions next time.
There you go.
I'm gonna go and try some stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you've got extra time, so again, a lot of the crap I do on YouTube is complete and utter crap anymore. But what I'll say is if you go to my YouTube channel, Eli the Computer Guy, so basically the other classes, so you go to videos, no, don't go there, you go to home, I guess. You go to home. So these are the other classes, these are the 4 classes. Have we only done 4? Anyways, yeah, I guess we've only done 4. So these are the other classes we've done, and this one will be up here too. So you can just watch these classes, and everything's on GitHub too. So
Recorded, right?
yeah, it's right behind you. Yep. You're so wow.
I'm mad I asked that question about Barcelona.
Hey, everybody gets to hear about the questions. Yeah. So again, and like I say, so we're going to keep doing these, and that's the nice part too. Is it's like I standardize on things, and so. One of my big things in the technology world is standardize. And so again, we standardize on all these technologies. We're almost always going to use Olama. We're almost always going to use Python. So again, the more you come, even if we're not doing the specific like introduction to Python class, you're going to start to understand more and more about what we're doing. And in January, we are going to have a full day introduction to Python class. So we're going to have that. We're going to start having full day like mini boot camps. So there'll be a class on SQL. There'll be an 8-hour class on SQL. There'll be an 8-hour class on Python. Again, I've just got to write these things. I'm trying to figure that out. I guess everybody wants weekend. See, the problem is I don't give a shit. It's Saturday, but I'm kind of married.
You're
And
doing
like,
that here, but you live in Asheville.
Asheville, yeah, so it'll be here. Yeah.
Okay, so you're commuting over there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the hard part about being married is because it's like, not only is it 8 hours, which is whatever, but I've got to drive here the night before, do the class, and then drive back on Sunday. So it ends up being 2 days and, marriage. Yeah. No, not at all. No, I paid for her. So back when I had my store, my business, I actually paid for her to go to A+ school. And yeah, that was a complete, that was just waste money. Yeah. She knew what RAM was. She could slot RAM. She was like, I slotted RAM. I was like, wow, we spent $3,000 to teach you how to slot RAM. That's great. Yeah.
$3,000.
Yeah, well, A+ was, it was, yeah, because we had a computer, because like I said, I had 9 employees back in the day, and we did computers and servers and voice over IP. That's all the education started, is literally back in the day, I was just teaching people like what I already knew, like the services we already performed. Yeah.
So like what time period is this when you were doing that?
When I was doing that, so I was a consultant and had my business like 2002 to 2009. We shut down during the Great Recession, started up again in 2012 until YouTube took off, and then haven't gone back. Yeah. As I say,
Do you only do stuff on YouTube, or do you have Instagram and Facebook?
nah, I only do YouTube. Like it's like that weird brain thing, like you don't understand. Like I don't understand Twitter or Snapchat and like TikTok. Just I don't even grasp it. I was told like, oh, you'll get addicted to TikTok, and then I got on TikTok for a week, and I was just I don't understand what this is. Yeah.
I don't think they have the attention span for this.
Yeah.
TikTok,
Well, YouTube doesn't have the attention span. Again.
What tips do you have to get traction on YouTube?
Scream about stupid shit. That's really what it is. Like look at that. In all seriousness. So I put out 3 videos per day. Yeah. So actually I film 4 videos per day. 3 actually get put out in an hour to maybe an hour and a half. So web scraping with AI, 3.7 thousand views. This shit took me a week to a week and a half to create, because again, I actually have to, all of this is what I create, so I have to figure out the idea, design the labs, right? Anyways, 3.7 thousand views. If we look at this is what got published today. NVIDIA backing out of $100 billion deal. It's already got 5,000 views. 14 nanometer chips beat NVIDIA, has gotten 12,000 views, and Baidu layoffs has gotten 4.4 thousand views. So just today, I've gotten 22,000 views.
China seems popular.
Yeah, China is definitely popular.
DeepSeek.
So look at this, 21,000 views for me screaming about fucking DeepSeek for 22 minutes versus...
The comparison to ChatGPT, because I want to know GPT, DeepSeek, or Gemini.
Yeah.
So are they shorts?
No, those are 10-minute, 14-minute, 16-minute videos.
So
Do you do any shorts?
No, I don't do short. Again, I don't get the shorts. Yeah.
So you edit your own content and stuff?
Hey, you know how I edit content? You know what? How I edit content is, I don't know, maybe I have.
I like you improved your thumbnails, I see.
Oh yeah, well, ChatGPT.
Thumbnails too?
Well, ChatGPT does my thumbnail. Yeah, so basically I take a little screenshot from what's called Final Cut, and I get that part, and I literally plug into ChatGPT like, I don't know, VPNs are dangerous, and like spits out a response.
Is that Raiden?
What's that?
Raiden from
Oh, I don't know. That's supposed to be a Chinese person. That's supposed to be an American person. They're supposed to be fighting over there. So I think I said American spy and Chinese spy fighting over a
I just
PC.
found out about this Chinese game literally today. It was an old Chinese man at the gym, and it's called Mahjong?
But he mentions it there.
Mahjong?
Oh.
It's like a strategy game.
Oh, tiles?
It looks like
Click.
dominoes.
Yeah. Dominoes, yeah.
Because I was talking to him, he was just like, I was like, you got any plans later? He's like, yeah, I'm playing
Mahjong,
Mahjong.
yeah.
It keeps me away from getting dementia.
Jesus.
Like I said, that shit.
Fair
He was
enough.
old, man.
Yeah.
Dude had to be 80-something at the gym.
But yeah, so you talk about stupid things. Like I say, people really like the China videos for whatever reason. Basically talking about how the U.S. is fucking up in the China war. But yeah, like some of these, I don't know, 17,000, 14,000. So yeah, like right now, like to give you a hint, I just finished out November, and I got like 1.3 million views on the channel, and that's not from web scraping.
Pretty good.
I try to do 2 posts a week.
Yeah.
And I know that that's below the bar, but I'm like, I don't know how I can do more. and I'm doing like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, you've just got to figure out yourself.
Well, I have been told that if you do a longer episode,
Yeah.
then what you can do is slice it up. And I mean, it takes time to do
Yeah.
the editing. I don't want to do the editing either. So
Yeah, it's all, it's all what you want to do. So for me, like I learned how to do this a lot with long form. Like I started with long form. My class is like, when I originally started doing this, I had my own infrastructure because YouTube wouldn't support what I did. So I was always doing 30 to 90 minute classes. And so that's how I learned. And then I started doing live streams. Like I was one of the I truly was one of the OGs with live streams. Like when it was Google Hangouts on air, when the platform really wasn't even designed for live streaming, I was May of 2012, I started live streaming. And that is, you go on and you start talking for 3 fucking hours. And so like a lot of this is just like a skill like anything else. The more you do it,
and then
yeah.
eventually you get good at it.
Yeah, so, yeah. And that's the thing, like I think about it, like when I do it, apparently like with flute players, there's this technique where they can breathe in through their nose and breathe out through their mouth at the exact same, which I don't fucking get, like what? Yeah. Anyways, that's what I'm doing. Like when I do these, there's no cuts. I chop off the front, I chop off the end, I publish. Yeah. Because what I'm doing is I have the concept of where I'm going, I have what I'm currently saying and what I previously said in my head. And it's this weird juggling. It's kind of like when you watch Trump. Like Trump is fucking bizarre sometimes. But the weird part is he goes off on these weird fucking tangents. But many times he actually loops back to his sane original point. And you're like, how do you do that? And it's actually for me in the tech, like you'll see me go off on like I just did this whole tangent on this poor technical soldier who died because his rappel rope got stripped apart. Anyways, but that was the thing, like I'm talking about this technical thing and I'm like, oh, it's just like if there's a nick in a rope, like when I used to do search and rescue training, there was a previous instructor where the Army rope didn't have the core in the middle, and so it didn't have core in the middle. When there was a little nick on the rope, the entire rope frayed and the fucker like dropped 500 feet and cracked his head. And it's like, that's just like with OpenAI, whereas if you start nicking their little armor of their argument, I think, oh, that's gonna go to hell. But anyways. It's where. Well, it's kind of like with this. I mean, I've been talking for like 2 hours, and there's been very, very few hookups. So yeah, it's just a skill set. Practice. Yes, practice.
Lots of streaming hours.
Yeah, and feeling like a complete idiot. No, because I can't. I've tried to use scripts and I've tried to use teleprompter, but again, different people are different. Like I just no. Yeah.
So,
my guess is that if it's long, then you don't really need the teleprompter because you don't feel the pressure of getting a concise message across in a very short period of time.
Well, but it's also not just the concise message, and this is where like I have to be like a little humble here. But it's also like you actually have to know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. Like if you follow me, again, you may disagree with me. You may disagree.
No, I agree. I completely agree.
And that's the thing, like a lot of these people, when they're talking, again, no offense to them, but they actually don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So you need a teleprompter and so like with me, like you'll notice, I'll fuck up words, I'll fuck up specific like grammar or something, but you'll notice like I'm clipping along with the actual information. Yeah, so and I think that's the other thing too, is like with this kind of thing, is like staying in your lane. Too many people chase the clicks. And so like they've talked about that with the astrophysicist, what's his name? And they've talked about him recently where he's actually damaging his reputation because he started talking, like because he's on so many like when he was on 1 or 2 talk shows a month, that's fine. But he's now like a personality that's talking about so many things. The issue is he's getting way ahead of his skis on what he knows. Not that he's not brilliant, but he's starting to talk about more and more things that he just does not understand. And that's where you have to like pull it into. Yeah.
You talk about a lot of things though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well.
No, but I like that. It feels like the long form content.
Yeah.
that's where your expertise really shines.
Oh, okay,
The
yeah.
other stuff is filler, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but as a user, so I think that really boosts the algorithm.
Yeah.
The political things you talk about.
And from a user's perspective, you can choose what you want to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like I also have like a weird background. Like I say, I actually have a background. I have a criminal justice degree, and again, I'm from the generation. This isn't what we were supposed to do. Like I was on my way to body armor and guns and breaking down doors, and then some. Well, I wanted to be emergency response teams, ERTs. Yeah, no, like my background, like back when I used to actually, do interviews for jobs, it was always hilarious because the interviewer would literally look at my resume and say, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like collapsed building?" No, I like some of my education, like only like special operations gets. Like it's this weird, like I have a weird fucking background, so that's one of the reasons I can talk about a lot of stuff. Yeah.
You don't put those things up anymore. I see.
What's that?
Well, political things.
Oh no, well that's down here. That's these videos. Yeah, I don't try to do. Well, my issue with politics is it just drives me nuts, and that's the other thing too. Like if you want to do these videos, is the actual work only takes about an hour and a half. So you're like, oh, it's easy money. But the thing is you've got to constantly think about it, and so like, fuck me, like Trump getting us into these Trump literally committing fucking war crimes at this point in time. And it is as it is. And it's like, look, I have as much power as anybody else does. I can do my arguments. Like, imagine spending all day thinking about the proper way to explain why Hegswitz should go to fucking Leavenworth. And and think about all day thinking about what ICE is doing right now, and thinking about and then because that was the thing. Like when I did the video, like I was doing really well when I was doing those political commentary videos, but it was like, yeah, I mean, think about you're just sitting there like again, like when I do these classes, like I'm noodling all day. Like, oh, maybe we use this REST API. Oh, maybe we do this. Imagine noodling on Fauci literally admitting that he lied to us, because he felt that it was better to lie to us to get us to go down a path, and then he would admit his lies later. And I'm not anti-vax. I'm fucking vaxxed. But Fauci literally stated, because they said, look, in the beginning of the vaccination drive, he literally stated 60% of the population needed to be vaxxed in order to have protection. That's what he stated, right? And then it was 70, and then it was 80, and then it was 90. And then the thing is then he was in front of a journalist, and the journalist says, you know, what changed? Like, why was it 60 and why is it 90? Because a lot of people don't think about it. The vaccination program was incredibly fucking fast. Like, there's all this snark about, we went from nothing to a shit ton of our population being vaxxed in like a year. That is fucking brilliant. That's insane. But it wasn't enough. And he literally said, if I had told the American people from day one that 90% of the population had to be vaccinated for protection, that the American public would not have gone with it. So I gave a number that I thought that people would be happy with.
Yeah, give a number that's believable and realistic.
But anyways, imagine if I had to do 4 videos a day where I had to think about that shit all day. That just, again, it was very profitable. It made me lose my fucking mind. My wife was like, don't stop. She was like, we don't need the money that bad.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, well, yeah, because again, it was like.
It's a whole community of anti-vax.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not even being anti-vax. It's like with Biden. When Biden was running, again, and I voted for Biden. One of the things that Biden said, I do not have the constitutional right to force American people to be vaccinated. He literally said that on the campaign trail. Motherfucker gets into office and then says, OSHA does though. And you're like, again, that's where you're getting with politics. And again, as you can start to see, my blood pressure is rising just talking about this crap. And so, yeah.
All the time, he said the terrorists will be paid by other countries, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah, again, we got Trump. Again, again, and that was the thing. Like when under the Biden administration, like when they were talking about inflation. Like everybody complained about inflation. And it was funny. Like you'd see the journalists say, you know, what do you say about people saying the economy is bad because of inflation? And Biden was like, no. And I was like, what the And again, now we have Trump. Again, they're saying we have what's called a K-shaped. A K-shaped recovery does not exist. This is not a recovery. And yet when Trump is confronted, literally, even now, Trump is saying, oh no, the economy's fine. You're like, what the? Anyways. So that's what I'll just talk about Baidu doing layoffs. This doesn't piss me off that much. Yeah. But yeah, no. I was an intern for the House or for the Maryland legislature at one point, and it was funny because I was in this. I was there, and I was watching these hearings or whatever. And it was funny because there was this one hearing, and it was about increasing teacher pay. And so I think it was a Republican. I don't know, Republicans, Democrats are both idiots, but I think it was a Republican. And basically there was this thing that went through, and they were trying to push increasing teacher pay just generically. Like teacher pay should go up by 10%. So anyways, he comes out for this particular bill and he says, I don't believe the teachers should just get more money for not doing anything. Like they should have to prove that they earn more money. Argument, whatever it is. Anyways, I shit you not. 5 minutes later, another bill comes up. And this bill is for providing teachers more salary, like based off of how much education they have. Motherfucker shoots it down. Like literally, this is almost verbatim what his previous argument was. So I go to the, in the government, there's all of these, lifetime employees. Basically, you have the people you elect, and then you have the people running the government. And so I went to like one of their advisors, and I was like, I just don't understand what the fuck I just saw. And basically, she was like, yeah, well, here's the thing. See, that bill that was being put up by the wrong party. So he couldn't vote for that. You're like, what? So literally the bill that he essentially argued for, he would not vote for because the wrong party put it up. And you're just like, so again, that's where, again, I'm just going to talk about AI models. Doesn't make me lose my mind. Yeah. Yep.
Whenever you're done with general questions, been trying to install your setup environment.
Oh yeah. That's the important. He is doing it right. He is doing it properly here. That's what we're here for.
I
Yeah.
would